Since this is a recorded public meeting, and then we'll go through roll call and public comment, and then we'll dig into the substance of the meeting.
Great. And Shannon and Kim are going to do the quick housekeeping in case there are members of the public. But I don't see any members of the public on the Zoom, but we probably should still do housekeeping. Shannon, would you mind?
Yes, one moment.
That's fine.
She's doing housekeeping. She's just pulling it up. I think there is a little lag.
Come join me.
Shannon, you got it, or is there an audio?
Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. One moment. Welcome, committee members, liaisons, and members of the public to the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission meeting. Thank you for joining us. We are using Zoom with the goal to foster a more inclusive environment and effective meeting. If you would like to comment during the meeting, please use the raised hand feature. Please utilize this tool to virtually indicate that you would like to speak in order to help the chair facilitate the discussion. A friendly reminder that this is a video conference and to please be aware of your surroundings behind you. All Legal Services Trust Fund Commission and committee meetings will be recorded and posted to the State Bar website. Zoom captioning is available. To enable, select live transcript at the bottom of your Zoom screen, then select enable auto transcription. Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon. Okay, why don't we do roll call?
Okay, great. Connolly?
Here.
Al-Saraf?
Here.
Alikani? Alikani? Ball? Blakemore?
Here.
Campbell?
Here.
Escobedo?
Here.
Galkin? Gonzalez? Here. Huang?
Here.
Iskin?
Here.
King? Klein? Cruz? Lee? Mahoney? Milrod?
Here.
Morales? Morales? Pryor?
Here.
Danville? Vargas? Justice Rodriguez? He's here. He's just next door. Judge Seligman?
Here.
Judge Yang? Okay, turn it back over to you.
Great. Okay, do we have any members of the public that would like to make public comment before we get started?
Vanessa Holton has her hand raised.
Okay. So just as an advisory, we do about 3 minutes for public comment. Can we unmute her?
Hey, good morning. How's everybody doing? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Vanessa. Hey, I don't know if you guys can share my screen or not or see what's going on, but I built the website up for VanessaHolton.com. Can you guys see it?
No.
Or can you see me at all?
Yes.
Alright, well, the fun part is I'm going to be showing a lot of good stuff today. And how many of you guys know that there's a lot of corruption going on in the state bar? Well, my direction, hey, Governor Newsom, Mr. Banta. Now, the two other people are Senator Wick and Senator Umberger. They're in the Judiciary Committee. And guys, you have not been doing a good job at all with taking care of the public here. The state bar is gone way, way downhill. I mean, our executive director, they say she cheated on the state bar exams, the MCLEs, because for almost 15% of her time, she was licensed. And if you want to see that, there it is right there. She's up and down, up and down. Now, one of the problems I also have is when you apply for a government job, you shouldn't lie on your resume. And it looks like right here, Leah went for senior director for Resource Development Associates. She went there for 13 months. And yet somehow she's got on the state bar that she was the resource director for 18 months. She kind of forgot that she just had to go on her own. Now, the reason I say she went on her own is if you look at when she was last licensed in January of 2018, which means by January of 2021, she's got to have her MCLEs up to date. Well, unfortunately, I don't think Leah did that because I think that's why she left and went to her own company as a strategic advisor, which I say is just a bullshit artist. And then if you look over Wonderful here, they started in February looking to replace Leah. So I guess she figured out her MCLEs weren't going to cover her. She figured out that she's going to have to get a job where they don't check her MCLEs. And we have Wonderful here now, the Vanessa Holton website, you guys. If you can look at this, here is the quitclaim I put up.
Okay, it seems that public comment is done. Are there any other public comments? Okay, hearing none, why don't we get started on our strategic planning today? So I'm going to get started with some opening remarks, and then I'll turn it over to our wonderful consultants who will be helping us today. So first, I just want to say to everyone, I'm so grateful and so excited that everyone could join today, and it's such a great opportunity for us to connect and get to know each other. I also want to extend my great appreciation to the staff for putting this together, and they are always such an essential part of the support of the commission. They do great work, and I know that they've really pulled out all of the stops on this strategic planning, and are here participating with us today, and I'm very grateful, and I'm sure that I speak for the rest of the commission as well. So I think just wanted to give a little context for this strategic planning process that we're undergoing. You know, in recent years, the commission has grown extensively. Just for a couple of stats, in 2014, the Trust Fund Commission distributed $4.8 million. In 2024, we authorized a distribution of over $100 million. The number of grants that we now oversee has also grown from our origins in the 1980s as sort of strictly handling the IOLTA funds. We now do partnership grants, bank grants, homelessness prevention grants, including with federal funds. We have care court grants. We do our legal fellows program. And so we've just really grown and expanded in a way that even in the 5 years I've been on the commission has been quite significant. We've also gone through a lot of structural changes. A few years ago, Senate Bill 211 changed the structure of the commission and gave us sort of this semi-autonomous role, and also changed, the source of our commissioners. So we have quite a different group of people, which has been really exciting to see the different folks that have come and joined and can contribute to the commission. And as many of you are aware and have also done some working groups on, we have been on a multi-year process of codifying our practices and procedures. And as part of that process, we've been reviewing them and determining what's effective, what's not effective, and how can we be more transparent and more clear for our legal service organizations that we serve. So given all of these changes and all of this growth, this strategic planning process was an opportunity for us to take a step back, to think about where we are right now and how we want to chart our course in the future. And so, both today and throughout this process, I really encourage you to be open and creative. I appreciate the feedback that the commissioners have given so far with the survey. We got a lot of responses on that, and I'm sure Cassandra and her team will be going through that, and we'll get to hear kind of what some of the themes are from that. And I want you to continue to feel like you can provide that feedback today in our various sessions, but also going forward. Not all ideas come right at the most convenient time. So if things come up after this meeting, you're welcome. And Cassandra and Eric will let you know what's the best to make sure they're looped in, but you're also always welcome to come talk to me as well. Ultimately my goal, which I believe we all share, is to continue to expand our support for increasing access to legal services for indigent individuals. And that support could take the form of looking to other grant sources, or engaging in best practices trainings for our organizations, or undertaking pilot projects on legal tech and innovations. These are other opportunities that we have that may or may not be what the commission believes is appropriate and within our mandate. These are just some ideas that I would encourage you to think through as we go through the process today. And I'm excited to hear everyone's thoughts and feedback today. And, I wish you luck as we go through this, and I hope you enjoy it and get to know people. So I'll turn it over to Cassandra.
Okay, so it's Cassandra and Eric. It's okay. No, I'm saying that just because it's Cassandra and Eric, but I feel a little bit like Oprah. I'm just going to start with that because I have to keep the microphone. So good morning. Okay, you got to do better than that. We got to stay awake. Come on, good morning. Thank you. Okay. So we are going to have a little fun, but to Erica's point, and thank you so much, we're going to also, my job really is to try to draw out as much as I can from you in the course of the day, and that's what facilitators do. And so I will make my way literally around the room and hear from everyone at least once, probably even more than that. Though based on some of the bios and introductions, I don't know that anybody in here is going to be all that shy. So, so thanks for the introduction. I want to do a couple things. I think the first thing we should do is just let you know what we're going to do today. Let's go to the agenda slide. So we're a teeny bit behind schedule, but we padded the schedule a little bit. We're going to open with talking through expectations, which I'll get to in a second, and then spend some time on what I think is going to be a fun team building exercise. Again, meant to help you all just get to know each other a little bit better. The one thing I learned in the planning process is a lot about a few of you, and everybody brings a really interesting background to this commission, and so I think you ought to know a little bit more about each other. So we'll spend a little time on that. We're then going to go through the survey responses, and what I really want to do there is less about us talking to you and more about you saying to us what you see and identify as most important in terms of priorities. And then we're going to take a break and have lunch. And sometimes we do working lunches when I run these kinds of sessions. But I think, again, we may eat into our lunch a little bit just to make up some time, pun intended. But I want you to spend some time maybe even sitting with someone you don't know very well. So that's another thing I want to do. Then we'll come back in the afternoon. We're going to have some breakout discussions on at least what we think some of the key priorities ought to be, and then we'll come back together, report out, and probably do a little prioritization of our work. So does that sound like what you signed up for? Pretty close? Okay. One of the things I also like to do before I start these conversations is share some ground rules. Pretty straightforward. As Erica said, we want you to be creative. I've already told you everyone's going to participate, like it or not. There are no wrong answers. There are no bad ideas. This is really about, as Erica said, when you get a chance to step back and spend a day as an organization, things can kind of flow freely, and that's what we want to see happen. So we will be respectful. We may even disagree with each other, and that's perfectly fine. We don't do that very well as a society, but we're certainly going to do it today in this room. And so if you feel strongly about something, share it. And we will be respectful and listen. And it'll, all ideas and all thinking will be incorporated into what becomes a summary for the day. So anybody else have expectations, or, I mean, not expectations, ground rules that you want to be sure we follow? Everybody good? Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to start with where I always like to start, and that is just put yourself in the frame of mind. It's now 3 o'clock in the afternoon today. What do you want to have accomplished? What do you want to see us have done and done either well or even not well? But what do you want to be sure? What are your expectations for the day? And I do want to start with you, of course, Madam Chair. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Anybody else with a thought immediately before I make my way around the room? What are you expecting? What do you want to get done? Yes.
I really love to hear from every single commissioner on what you think could be the role of the commission in really making the biggest impact we can with the funding that we have and kind of the platform that we have with the amount of money that we distribute. How can we make the biggest impact with that from every single one?
Particularly given how much you've grown. That makes a lot of sense. Please. Oh, well,
I wasn't raising my hand to speak, but since you called on me,
there you go.
I would like to have clear direction and accountability over the goals that are set.
Okay. Thank you. My friend from Sacramento. It's hard being left-handed. I'm already trashing my hand. But it's a sign of genius, my mother said. Who else? Expectations. I like your purple shirt and tie, so I'm going with you, and I can't see your name.
Good morning, Chris McConkey.
Hi, Chris.
I think it would be most productive if everyone was willing to grapple with like really hard strategic questions, and if there's something that's kind of scary to think about or challenging but very important, to still feel like this is the right time to bring it up and talk about it in a really well-meaning way.
Good. Good call out. That's exactly what this process should do. How about your neighbor? Yes, sir.
I'm not really sure. I mean, I think commission works pretty well. So
Okay.
my expectation is to get to know everybody today, honestly.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay. It just goes to show you we all have different perspectives. All right, let me make my way back here. I'm going to get my steps in. Catherine, what are you thinking about? Yeah, you use that. Press the button. There you go. Thank you.
So I would like to find ways for increased connectivity among commission members. both today and maybe through some additional in-person meetings, because I think the meetings, particularly when they're hybrid, are actually very hard for people to connect with. And then also increased engagement so that people, everyone, thank you, everyone has, these don't actually move, oh, here. That's all right. Increased engagement so that every commissioner is engaged in a piece of the commission's work, but also has a better understanding of what that work is and how it fits into a larger picture. So those are my two
That's great.
ideas.
Thank you for that. You agree, sir? You know it's coming.
Of course, I was ready. So, yeah, I agree, but I think our challenge is as was noted, we've grown so fast. And I
Yes.
think as an incredibly fast-growing but now very important organization, we have two challenges. One is, can we stay nimble and not be overly bureaucratic? And how do we leverage this size? And a lot of that is seeking out who we're going to partner with. You know, we can invite a lot of people to the discussion, and they're going to come, but who are we going to invite, and what's that discussion going to be?
Good. Can I just call the last part of what you said, potential partners? Okay. Thank you. All right. Anybody else? Oh, please. And tell me your name. Ah, okay. Which goes to your accountability piece too.
Just a friendly reminder, as I'm modeling for you now,
Yes.
to please use your mics, please turn them on when you're speaking, because this room is quite large, and then we have folks online as well listening in.
Fair enough. Thank you. Anyone else over here?
I'll add.
Expectations?
Hi,
Please.
Vanetta Campbell.
Hello.
Alongside with what Catherine was mentioning, as a new member, it'd be helpful to know how to prioritize your level of involvement and contributions.
Okay. I'm gonna put a. Good. Good morning and welcome. Morning and welcome. I won't put you on the spot yet. But I'm coming to you. How about at this end? Anybody, anything?
Sure. I guess for me also, it's Vanetta said as a newer member, is expectation of walking away with a better understanding of where there's alignment in the commission and areas where we could align.
Okay. I'm going to stick that up with role, but I think that's a good word. What's your name?
Efrain.
Thank you. Efrain. Oh, see, I didn't recognize you in the.
When you say strategic planning retreat, I come comfortable.
Hi, my name is Heidi Slater.
Okay.
I guess, like I said earlier to Cassandra,
Yep.
I'm manifesting love and camaraderie and, and respectful conversations about tough topics. So I'm hoping we can dig in and come out with something positive.
My name is Eloina Gonzalez, and I am a new member to the commission. And I think some folks have already stated something along these lines, but really understanding what our individual roles are within the commission, but also within this process. So, yeah, just learning more overall in general about why we're here, and this is very helpful for me in terms of everyone's expectations and understanding what the purpose of today is.
Also relatively new member, but coming from the field programs, the commission's goals and the goals of grantees are perfectly aligned around the need to evaluate impact of these grants. And I would love to see us at least begin the conversation of how this organization, this commission, can support and like robustly support the programs to do that evaluation that everybody needs to do, including software and training. I mean, the list is like longer than your arm. I'm also really looking forward to getting to know people better. This is really lovely to be in person. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
I'll just piggyback on that. I would like to see if we can identify if there are any opportunities for innovation. How can the commission best adapt to changing times? Lots of technology out there in the world, lots of new tools and different methods of communication. So just hearing about that and talking about it.
Okay, so I'm going to do this. Lots of organizations thinking about innovation and technology. Was at a conference yesterday where we talked about a lot of things, and at the end someone said, what about AI? And everybody went, whoa, what about AI? So even think about that in the context of your work. Gentleman just in the back in the navy blazer.
Good morning, Jonathan Sandville.
Hello.
I think I'm one of the newer members to the commission, as we reimagine what a new strategic plan could look like, I think I would like for us to build consensus around the things that we're throwing up on the whiteboard and to really distill those and to have a united front in terms of what we believe are the priorities for the mission and the vision. That's my hope for it today.
It raises a really important question. And we deal with this in my organization, Eric and I. Are you familiar with the mission? Do you know it? It's a really good question. So much so that we should probably tee it up and just read it out loud. Want me to find it or you want to find it? Okay, let's hear it. Turn your mic on. Thank you.
Sorry. The mission is the State Bar of California's mission is to protect the public and includes the primary functions of licensing, regulation, and discipline of attorneys, the advancement of the ethical and competent practice of law, and support of efforts for greater access to and inclusion in the legal system.
Yeah, so one thing we should note is that's the state bars, and we sort of fit under their umbrella, but as the Trust Fund Commission, we're sort of a little bit semi-autonomous. And I don't have my computer in front of me, of course, but I can try to pull up our mission from the web. If anyone gets to it before me, please
Well,
feel free.
And here's actually a problem, so that I'll call out. So we have on our website, like generally what the Trust Fund Commission does. This entity, though, I went back and tried to look at files. We've never officially adopted a mission, like a mission statement. I think we glean off of the IOLTA statute, and I'm paraphrasing now, which, you know, is to support legal services program and to kind of expand and support those legal aid organizations, and then we are that conduit, but we don't quite have an official mission statement.
So I have purpose, and the
Oh, and
purpose
Rosina,
is the commission administers grant programs that fund nonprofit civil legal aid organizations, including interest on lawyers' trust accounts, grants, the Equal Access Fund, and the Justice Gap Fund. So that's purpose. But mission is it's an open question, and maybe it's something to, you know, put on the, I'm going to put it on the, I can put it on the parking lot, or I can put it on big ideas, you tell me.
And I'm just gonna say that I provided that to Cassandra was from the legislation that codified you all. And so that's why I'm saying that was language I was given. I mean, we were in existence before 211, and so I don't know if as a body we have decided on what our like shared vision and mission is.
And if I can, speaking of innovation and technology, I just use ChatGPT right now, just be like, what is the purpose of, just to see, knowing what was just said.
Yes.
And if folks would mind me reading this, it says the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission typically aims to ensure access to legal services for underserved populations. Its purpose and goals include, and it says promoting access to justice. It defines that, administering trust funds, supporting legal aid organizations, addressing legal needs, and advocating for legal rights.
Not bad.
So just to kind of get everyone thinking about, and it goes into further detail, but
okay.
A starting point. ChatGPT, I literally just entered quickly, knowing that we, you know.
You see what you just started, sir? But it's we just made 2 points. So, wow, that is actually pretty good. Not bad. We may have come up with it. I don't know. Well, I made a note under big ideas to as a question mark. Is it something that you want to include on the list? And I can also move it over to the parking lot if you tell me to. But good call. Just because you know your mission, then you work towards, you know, you're working towards something that's very concrete.
If I could add one area along those lines, it would be, you know, as appropriate, alignment with the stakeholders. And so that's the service component, engaging with the community and legal aid societies. I know my understanding is already done from all the wonderful work that the staff is doing, but it's part of that organizational mission.
Cassandra, can I ask a very basic question?
Sure.
Can you tell us what expectations, big ideas, and parking lot refer to?
Well, expectations we're doing,
Yeah.
and I'm going to come back and summarize these really quickly. Across the day, somebody's going to say, my God, that's a great idea. I'm going to pop it up here.
Perfect.
That's all. I mean, and we may say at the end of the day, we got to put that on the parking lot because it's really not in our wheelhouse, or we don't have resource, or it's something we should do long-term. But that's the difference, and that's my car with the lights going on. So you should be very impressed with that artwork. But thank you for asking.
Just wanted to know whether
tell you that.
going on the parking lot was a good or bad thing.
It's actually, it is neither. It could be that it's a really great idea, but it's not in our wheelhouse, or a really, really great idea, but not something we want to do right away. So, do you look like you want to say something before I move on?
Thank you. I'm Michael.
Michael.
And, really glad to be here today. I think just touching on some of the other things that everybody sort of shared, expectation for the day is just to see how we all lean into some maybe uncomfortable ideas. I think that's always something that brings about good discussion and change sometimes.
Good. Again, respectfully, but we may even disagree, but that's okay. And with love. Yes, sir.
just something to add that could be an expectations, but it was spurred by the bigger question about mission is great, but in this process, an expectation for me would be getting a better sense, what's the intended impact we want to have, right? Missions are very big, but just what is our intended impact through the mission?
Good. Let me ask one more, and then we'll go back through this, but who is my friend way in the back?
Victor Rodriguez. Oh, sorry.
Way in the back. Okay, nice to see you. Thank you. All right, and then way in the back.
I'm Victor Rodriguez.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Anything in the way of expectations from you?
I just got off a call. so
Just
I'm
got off a
catching
call. I'm not going to bother you yet. I'll bother you later. And then my friend who came in just a little bit late, anything from you? And then we'll.
Yes, I'm Jacqueline Ali Khani, and I'd like to learn, more about where we have been as a commission, where we are now, and where we'd like to go from here, and just a general overview of what our strengths are, our main strengths, our weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Okay, a SWOT analysis. And that's what we're going to do when we start to walk through the survey results. So perfect timing. So I've been told by staff that we can stand up and we can move to the back of the room. And as long as we leave the microphones on, we're okay. We're going to get to know each other for a minute. And here's what we're going to do. For the only time in the session today, other than lunch, you're going to take your cell phones with you. Everybody has one? Anybody not have a cell phone? And most of us, if not all of us, have some kind of photograph on a screensaver on our phones, don't we? Does anybody not have one? That's what I thought. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go in the back of the room. We're going to introduce ourselves one more time. You're going to tell us where you were born, where you grew up, and then you're going to tell us who or what is on your screen. Okay? I'm Cassandra. I am president of Lucas Public Affairs. I was born in D.C., as I share with my friend here, raised in Baltimore. I have 4 sons, all adults, but the screensaver is Eric, who is playing semi-pro soccer in Madrid, and he is my screensaver. So now you know a lot more about me than you knew just a minute ago. And I want everybody to take about a minute, because we're going to include the staff in this process as well. And if we're standing up together, we can actually show each other our pictures. So let's go. Come on.
Okay, let's do this.
Guess who's going first? Where's your phone? Okay. Come on back. That's not surprising. Okay. And we'll do a circle. All right, but you have to show your pictures. Okay. Where are you born? Where is that? Born, raised, what's on the screen?
Born in Val Gardens City here in LA County and raised in LA County. And on my screen, I have a picture of me and my girlfriend who keeps me in line. Christina. And she checks to make sure it's still on.
She's very pretty. Lucky guy. Okay.
My name is Patience Milrod. I was born in Los Angeles, lived in the Bay Area on the peninsula, and on my screensaver is this really unbelievably handsome, tall guy who is
All right, you can walk around and show folks your screen. So walk around. Show your screen.
Good morning. Vanetta Campbell, born and raised in San Francisco, California. Okay. And wonderful 49er fan. All right. My screensaver is actually. Okay, listen up. My screensaver is actually just a flower because I love red, and it's just like a bright image. But if we're talking about screenshots, I guess I should identify this wonderful person in my life. And that would be, where is he? What's his? But it's Tony Campbell, my husband.
Okay.
Tony says hello.
Thank you. All right.
Good morning, my name is Jody Pryor. I was born in Panorama City in the San Fernando Valley. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, now I'm in Ventura. My screensaver is my two kids, Riley and Cooper.
Very cute. Can you pull them up so we can see them? I don't know how to do it either. Eric, do you know how to do it? I knew there was a technology person here. Yeah. All right, walk around.
Okay.
Make your way around. There's darling. There you go. Lovely. Oh, I'm jealous. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Kim Wormsley, born and raised in Berkeley, still live there. And I do not have a picture or anything. I have the generic thing that came with my.
You're here. No. It's either that or the last photo that you can show us that you took. You don't take photos with your phone? That's because you're in tech and you don't trust anybody, right?
I only got this phone because my other phone died.
Okay, you're forgiven, Berkeley. If you had a picture, what would it be of?
Probably of my numerous little cousins that always want to hang out at my house and drive me crazy.
It's a good thing. Family's good. All right, thank you.
Duan, I was born in Vietnam and raised in the Inland Empire, San Bernardino, Fontana area. So I'm from down here.
There you go.
And here's a picture of my 2 kids in Yosemite, my 10-year-old and my 5-year-old. That's when I was pregnant.
That's great.
Turn it back up. All right, Madam Chair.
Yes, I'm Erica Connolly. I was born in Simi Valley down here and grew up there. And then I also eventually made my escape to the Bay Area, and now I'm in Sacramento. And let's see, my picture is my very precocious kindergartner daughter. And as you can see, she's basically rolling her eyes in this picture. And that's a kind of constant state that she's in when dealing with me. Yeah, I know. She's definitely almost 6, almost 16. So I'll go show her
She's
around.
lovely. Please
Oh,
do.
thank you. Good.
I like the photo. Yeah. She looks like a handful. When's her birthday, Erica?
The end of April, she turns 6. It's a good reminder every day.
That's why you have a shirt.
Oh, here we go.
Cute. Thank you. She's adorable.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Hom. I'm born and raised in San Francisco, like Vanetta, which I've worked with Vanetta a lot, and we did not know that about each other. So this is really lovely.
This is why we need team building.
My screensaver, so one of my life goals is to be the favorite auntie. I have 2 brothers, and so the favorite auntie to those kids, and so I often take them out to do things. And so my screensaver is just a trip to the Monterey Bay
I
Aquarium.
knew that was what it was.
And it's, how do I get it back?
It's turn it off and turn it back
Okay,
on.
so it's just
It's
the
the jellies.
jellyfish, yeah.
And what's really interesting is the 3rd son, interned at the aquarium 3 summers in high school, because that's also his
Yeah,
favorite
and
thing
like
to
the
do.
jellyfish room was like
So
a very
cool.
zen moment when being with like really, they're big now, but when they were very little.
It's very
It was
cool.
nice, yeah.
Good for you. Lots of commonalities. Okay, take it and show it around.
That looks like in the box, like the creek.
It's one of my favorite places. You can take your grandson. Thank you, Elizabeth. Heidi.
Hi there. I'm Heidi. I was born in Salt Lake and raised in Salt Lake, and I was going to say my screensaver is my precocious son. And so that's my boy. He's 8.
Wow. Very handsome. Great hair.
That's my key, right?
Yeah, really good hair. Great hair. Love it. All right.
Hello, Rocio Avalos, born and raised in the Central Valley, and my screensaver.
Well, where in the Central Valley?
Oh.
That was smart.
I was born in Lodi, California, and I was raised, oh, okay. And I was raised in a small town in Sacramento County.
Which was?
Oh,
A lot of specificity.
I know, I don't share that easily, I'm realizing. In Galt, California.
We know Galt. All right, what's your screensaver?
My screensaver is one of the most beautiful sunsets I've seen I spent some time working remotely, my previous position, in Kauai.
Wow.
During the
pandemic. Yeah,
That was smart.
work-life balance and flexibility allowed, and it
It's amazing.
That's pretty smart. All right, show that one.
Very nice. That's nice. I'm a lifetime now.
Wow. God. Specificity is important.
Yeah. Then you can stay far and no more support.
That's right. No more of that. All right, Chris. Is that still on? Yep.
Let's see, test,
Come on.
test. Yep, all right.
Yep.
All right, hello, my name is Chris McConkey. I was born in Eureka, California, which is next to Arcata, California, which is where HSU Polytechnic is. And it's like about 5 hours north of San Francisco for
Yep.
those, yeah. And the photo, I actually, Kim, also just have like the default blue background as I didn't realize that until I was, somebody like, she was like, oh, you have a photo on yours. Of course I do. And then I looked at my phone, I was like, I guess I never set a photo because I didn't. But I took a recent photo. So our family visited for the holidays and we went to Disneyland. And some members of our family had like never been to Galaxy's Edge, which is like the really highly detailed Star Wars part of Disneyland. So we took a photo in front of the Millennium Falcon. So that's the family for Christmas.
Well done.
Yeah.
I'm a big Star Wars.
Yeah, so it's not on my lock screen, but maybe it
Could
will
you
be
fix
after
that now?
today.
Yeah.
That's my husband, my mom, and her boyfriend. Really fun.
And I'm a big Star Wars fan, but I still go. Everybody says we should go. Because you're the favorite auntie. All right, that's a good call. That's a really good call.
That's mom and her boyfriend. Yeah, and you've seen this.
You got me motivated now. I may go down there, Chris. All right, Michael.
I'm Michael Chang. I was born in Kaohsiung, Taiwan. Raised in, I guess, the San Gabriel Valley here in SoCal.
Give us a city, town.
Probably the two like we were in the longest is Montebello and Arcadia.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
My screensaver is of my better half, my wife Stephanie, and our daughter Katie.
Can I have her?
Please. She was about 5.5 here. She's 10.5 now, and like Erica, eye rolls all day.
Show her around. Oh my gosh, she's lovely. That's why they're cute.
Their package deal.
Very good clarifying.
You can have this.
I don't believe you. We don't believe you, do we?
She's still sweet.
Yes, sir.
Cliff Cly, Los Angeles. I'm impressed that everybody gets children. Not me, I can't. So I have a picture of my
Wait,
recent trip. up
Born, raised,
Los Angeles.
both?
Yes.
Okay, making sure. All right, there you go.
Yeah, this is a photo from a recent trip to Morocco.
Stunning. Okay, make your way around.
That's awesome. When did you go to Morocco?
Last year.
Oh, that's great.
Before the year.
Oh, right.
That could be the default, like, it's actually screensaver. Oh, yeah, no, Morocco. Let's say people.
How long were you there for?
If it will be on.
And how, and
Online?
Yeah, just before the earthquake. Yeah, I was gonna say. Okay. Yeah, beautiful.
All right, so hello, everybody. I'm Eric Iskin. I was born in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Raised in the Philadelphia area, but I've been here for quite a while. I have 4 kids like you. None of them are on my screensaver. I have my 2 grandchildren.
Well, of course, that's because your grandchildren. My grandchildren
Right.
would be on my screensaver.
My 6-year-old granddaughter, Maxine, and 20-month-old grandson, Meyer.
Okay, wait, let me look first.
Oh, my goodness.
Make your way around. I know. Oh. I'll be 80 and they'll put you in.
My parents with my elder siblings, they're like, it'll never happen. Give them It was so cute.
I'm Jacqueline Alicani, and I was born and raised in a very famous place called Gaines Landing, Arkansas. Remember that show, Knots Landing? It's sort of like that. There's a lot of land and a lot of animals and horses and cows and all that good stuff. And when I was 18, when I graduated from high school, I came out here to go to USC, and I've been here ever since. And I never really had a screensaver, but about a year ago, I was at lunch with some friends from Vietnam, and they were like, "You don't have a screensaver?" And they put this on here. I don't know what this is. It's something about Buddha, something good luck, but I don't really know what it means. But I feel good about it. It's positive, so I like it. But I'll show you my husband and grandson. I have a photo of them. That's going to be my official screensaver. So that's my husband, Sadek, and my little grandson, Bijan.
Your son's gonna get a call after this?
Their ears are ringing. I don't ask them anymore. I complain to everyone else. I've decided that the strategy is not working.
You know what, you wait a long time, it does happen, it takes a long time.
Takes a long time. I was gonna say, we should change the screensaver. We've got technology people here. It's okay, we'll do it for you.
I'm Crystal Bending, born and raised in Guam. Would you like to know the village?
Yes.
I was born in Tamuning, Guam, and then I was raised in Manila. I moved to the States when I was about 20 for school, and I've been here ever since. So I have slightly better settings than the default, but I still have one of the default graphics from But if I will share a photo, I'll share this. This was one of my memories from a past summer trip to Vietnam last summer. We did a lantern making class, so I made this, and it was like the best 3 hours that we spent. Yeah.
Show that to everybody. Sure.
Made it. I bent the bamboo myself.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
I know, you showed us pictures, but not that one.
And you guys are all.
I would love that.
Hello, I'm Victor Rodriguez. I was born and raised in East Bay, born in Walnut Creek, raised in Livermore. And my screensaver is of my wife and 2 children when we were in Hawaii last summer.
Very nice.
Morning again. Jonathan Sandville. I'm born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. Encino is home now. It's been home for a while. And my screensaver is a view of the Hudson River from my apartment in Jersey City before I moved back here. So the water, yeah. And it was surrounded by water because it's, those high rises in New York and Jersey, it's glass boxes. So it brought me so much joy to wake up to water every single day out of every room. So I miss that. But nothing beats LA. The weather here, the people, so I'll give that up any day over it because it's cold and depressing there. But when it's warm and nice, so the water is lovely. Yeah.
Okay, well, sure, that's pretty.
I love that part. All right.
Elovina Gonzalez. I was born in Portland, Oregon, and I was raised in a very small agricultural community in the Willamette Valley in Oregon. The town is Independence, Oregon. We have a great 4th of July celebration every summer, and it is, yep. There are also hops for beer lovers as well, because it is very agricultural. And so I live in the East Bay now. And my screensaver is my 11-year-old daughter, Luna, and, our golden retriever, Oliver, is our 49ers fan. So he's wearing his little jersey.
He's 11?
She has her little earphones on, so, but it's, Luna is 11, and Oliver is now 2 years old.
Yeah, deep down.
He weighs 100 pounds. They told us he was going to be a medium size.
Yeah. He looks very serious.
He's pretty cute.
First after that. I was born in Stockton, California, and I was raised in Stockton, California. And I didn't have a screensaver, but I have one of those background things. And I now have something in common with you. My son's name is Oliver. And this was a picture of him when he was 2 years old. And the reason why I keep this one on the phone and not how old he is now is because it reminds me of how cute he used to be. So when he does things, I look at this picture to remind myself that he was cute. He's 8 now. Kind of like
I'm Bridget Grammy. I was born in Pasadena and raised in San Diego, and I still live in San Diego. Okay, my daughters had put this little screensaver that changes every minute.
I know people that do that.
So this is my daughter Tori, who's 16, but it will change to this picture of Utah. So I'll walk around with a picture. I have 3 daughters. Here's all 3 of them. So it's not like I have a favorite. It's just whatever pops up. 16, 14, and 3. So we had a surprise. So.
Where's your phone? Yeah, better be in your pocket. Come on. Your last.
Yep, surprise. Very
Yeah, do
surprise.
something that's,
There you have it, yeah. I don't
He's looking for a decent photo. Because he lives in San Diego.
My name is Eric. I was born in Elk Grove, California, near Sacramento. I live in San Diego.
Where in San Diego?
Pacific Beach. So I'll show a sunset from Pacific Beach, which I try to see every day when I can sneak away from work.
He works remotely. I know. We're good bosses.
Yeah, that's all Cassandra.
He's always trying to get rid of, yeah, he's always trying to get rid of do meetings down there.
It's the backyard.
Nice.
Who doesn't?
So thank you for that. You feel like you know each other a little bit better?
Yes.
All right, good. Now it's time to get to work. Here we go. All right, come on back to your seats. Thank you. They're like, no, let's have fun. This was fun. Then we got work to do. Thank you. It's nice to get to know folks that way. So with that sort of fun and personal exercise in mind, I'm going to take you back through this list really quickly. And let me say that some of this, I would say, is sort of expectations from the process, and some of this goes into expectations of the day. But both are fine, because I think all of them were absolutely legitimate. So this is a combination where we've been and where we want to go in the short, medium, and long term. Role of the commission and some alignment, clear direction and accountability. Several of you said grapple with the hard strategic questions, get to know each other. I'm going to check that off already. Increased connectivity between commissioners, increased engagement and contributions by commissioners, how to leverage our size and growth, who our potential partners might be, how we evaluate and measure success of programs, that's very good. Individual and collective goals and expectations for the work. Address innovation and technology. Address priorities around mission, and I put mission statement up there. Alignment with stakeholders. Lean into uncomfortable ideas, and what's our intended impact. I think, again, some of this is going to go to what we do today. I'm going to check one off, as I said, but some of this also goes to where we want to go as a result of this process. And so I think these are, I think it's a good list. Anybody like burning to share anything else before we move on? Please.
I think this kind of goes without saying, but I'd love to see increased excitement and energy around, and sort of an energized feeling about the commission from everybody, and an enhanced level of ownership individually from each of us about kind of what the commission is and what we're doing collectively, but for each individual, especially because we've got a lot of new faces as well.
Thank you. Okay, got it on there. Sure.
Community relations and community outreach. I think a lot of the community is not really aware of what the services are that the bar provides in the community. I mean, we provide funding for all of these wonderful organizations that help people, but a lot of people, I think, don't know about it. So I think some good PR would be really good.
Thank you. Anybody else before we close it out? Okay, it's a good list. We're going to photograph a lot of this. Let's go to the next slide and come back to you. But I am going to check one thing off because I do think we did a really good job of starting to get to know each other. So you've already got some work. You already got one of your tasks done. So I think most of you know we surveyed ahead of this process. And the way I like to sort of describe this is, I like to, sorry, my mic, but sort of capture as much as we can and to sort of pull it in and start to prioritize it. And that's some of what's going to happen from this process. But we had an 8-question survey, as you know. Many of you, I mean, we had a really, really good
response rate from commissioners. 22 were surveyed, 19 responded. Staff, all 11, and 2 board members, 2 of the State Bar board members. It was really to talk about, as I think you said, sort of the start of a SWOT analysis. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What are our opportunities? What are our threats? And so we are also going to conduct some interviews after this process is through, just to go a little bit deeper on some of what comes out of these conversations today. You don't need to know all of it, but my background is mostly in advocacy and politics. I'm a big believer in polling. And I trust the polls we do. I don't trust the polls out there, but I trust the polling we do. And so this is a great way to just get an assessment of a snapshot in time. Things change, but at this moment in time, sort of what people are thinking about the work of the organization. So it was really, really helpful, and I want to thank you on behalf of the staff and your chair for all of you who participated in the survey. So thank you for that. Okay. I should really make you do this so I can stop talking. Come on. You earn your living. Here we go.
Wish I could do this from the beach. So a bit about what we heard. This gives a good aggregate of, some of the survey responses we saw. The first question was, rating the effectiveness and really just how you guys perceive the effectiveness of the work that the Legal Services Trust Fund does in each of these 3 areas that we broke down here. A lot of 5s is what we saw. So if people feel pretty good about the work that we're doing here in the commission and how effective we're being. The one where we saw a little more uncertainty was this 3rd one here. And we'll see that theme a little bit when we get into some of the highlights from the survey. But kind of on collecting data and evaluating these outcomes, the accountability piece we've talked about a bit is really something I think that we'll want to, focus in on here.
Feedback or anything you want to say about these responses? Anything that springs to mind, please.
So did
Was that Zach?
Okay. I'm newer to the commission, so this is just a kind of a question, I would say, about the rating. Is that like how, in answering these questions, how did everybody kind of come to the conclusion that that was kind of what metric was used for each individual? Because it just seems like, increasing access to, say, legal services and meeting the needs of, I can't read that far. Sorry, indigent Californians, right? Was there a metric that was provided in order for us to do that, or was it just how we felt about the work that we did?
The latter.
Okay.
This is your collective. I should say that in the microphone. Get in trouble. This was a collection of your opinions.
Okay.
Oh, it's green. So it should be okay.
Please.
So for this survey, is the entire survey, is it just all of us around the table, or are stakeholders included as well?
Stakeholders were not included in this initial survey. It was really just to get a sense of you guys, the staff, and I think we had 2 State Bar board members that took the survey to get, the initial perceptions.
And I asked that question because I think we're all here because we have an affinity for the work in the organization. So it's probably going to be skewed toward the higher number because of how we feel.
But let me say, if that was not the case, or if we saw some outliers, that would be something for us to be sure we address. We sort of expected it would be positive, but you essentially want to check. I mean, you're here, you're spending the time on it because you value the work, but we just wanted to check. And that was what the comment field was also used for. I think Catherine, and then Catherine.
I
I thought the third item just nicely related to one of the expectations or future thinking about the desire of the commission. I think that's what was raised over there as well, of just thinking about how do we evaluate things and what are the metrics and really kind of a priority for sort of wrestling with that maybe in the next year or so, right? To come up with something and use that as an opportunity to also get stakeholder feedback about what would be interesting with that.
Yeah, I think the results are interesting, and I'll just share a question that comes up for me or an observation on it is, you know, there's probably a high sense of confidence and trust because the staff is very open and transparent, and so we get high ratings in the first two. But I think it's interesting that we say the data's probably not there. So we have a great perspective on our work, but do we have the data that actually validates that point? So I think it's an interesting question or observation that might help us grapple with, okay, well, we want to be maybe a little bit more sure on it. But I thought it was interesting that we're rating very high on those outcomes, but saying that the data's maybe not as there.
Please.
So I'm going to say this, and this is comes from the with love part. So, you know, I do think we collectively do a really good job. I was fairly surprised at that first one, that was a 5, because I do think there's so much more opportunity. And to me, a 5 suggests that we have done the most that we can. And I don't know, for me, at least my perspective, that is true of this commission and the staff that support it.
And I would also add, I mean, turn to the third question, it might be that the data is there, but it's not disseminated. So we may not have access to everything, so we think, oh, it's limited. But if we had a deeper dive, it might be that it really is available. And the question is, how do we share it amongst the commission and other stakeholders?
Having been in a field program, I do not have confidence about the data, partly because there's not a uniform way of collecting it. There's not, you know, and every program has got a different capacity to collect and analyze it. So it's one of the things that I think is an essential component of the grant-making process, and that is enabling the grantee to do a good job figuring out what we do with your dollars and did we do with them what you expected us to. That said, I agree with Efrain that there's a high level of confidence in the staff, and I don't think that means we've done the best we could possibly do. It means we're giving out a lot of money. The staff works really hard with the grantees to make sure that they use it well. And timely to the extent that's humanly possible. So you know, there's a little bit of a disconnect, but I think fundamentally, yes, of course, there's more we could do, and you know, y'all are really awesome, so.
My recollection is that about a year ago, Chris sent us the data report that gets sent to the legislature or the judicial council, some external body. And so I guess my observation is that the data was interesting. I actually read the report, but if we're thinking about the commission's role, it's like equally of interest that we spent no or very little time even having a discussion about the data that we have or what might that data tell us, and this kind of discussion sort of focused on what was already collected. So that just goes to the evaluation component of this, that there is some data. It may or may not be correct to patient's point, but it's what we have, and we haven't spent time thinking even about that data.
Name one more time.
Chris. So before coming over to the State Bar, I worked at a nonprofit that received funding in the form of grants that the commission administers. I worked there for many years, and that nonprofit had received grants via the commission for maybe decades. And I'm pretty sure that if through the strategic planning process or otherwise, a survey like this were to go out to like that nonprofit who had been a direct recipient of funding for decades, there would be, and to other nonprofits, there would be so many responses in the unsure, prefer not to answer column. And I mean, like, and I was actually the director of finance there, so I actually worked on our applications to the commission and our reports and budgets. And, you know, we don't have time necessarily to like the grantees to attend all the commission meetings and watch and see what's happening, but really, I think on the grantee side, not a ton of visibility into like what the commission is doing, how good of a job it's doing. Everyone sort of assumes, I think, it's doing a good job, but doesn't know for sure. So it kind of goes to the PR piece, but I wouldn't be surprised if we went outside the state bar and the commission itself, if it was just more responses and the unsure, prefer not to answer. I'm obviously speculating, but then in like any of the other columns, and I'm not, maybe that's fine, but I wonder if maybe that's not optimal. And like, at least the grantees themselves should be able to say like, we think the commission's doing a really great job, or here's what it could be doing better, but to actually have an answer. And I wonder if maybe they wouldn't even have an answer.
That's a very good point. There you go.
Cliff Klein. I'm curious with some of the providers, if they have a sense of how we really could evaluate. Now, I worked in a DA's office for 25 years. I was at times in a management position. And I never figured out how you could evaluate, you know, various units in the area of the law. I think it's really hard. And so before we beat ourselves up too much, I'd be interested if people have ideas who work in these offices, how you can evaluate, are the right cases being brought, you know, runs the whole gamut.
I made a note just called best practices. Oftentimes, to both your points, you know, there's another way to do something that we haven't thought about and somebody's already doing it. But I think it's a good call out, for sure. Please.
Subject that we're all talking about. We have a lot of committees, subcommittees in this group, but I wonder if we would think about a committee that focuses on evaluation. Because we end up spending most of our time formulating RFPs, you know, figuring out the rules for bidding on this or that, and then we evaluate bids, and that pretty much consumes like a lot of our resources.
Thank you.
Just to layer onto that, I think it's really interesting to see the score just above it as well, and how we look at what we collect and how we collect it, thinking about those that are doing the work, what would be easiest and best to actually get at the impact, and thinking about the equity piece as we're thinking about how we would do that.
I think on the evaluation, I hear the idea of having a committee here. I think it needs to be a committee that includes the programs, because we can, in the abstract, talk about evaluation, but frankly, they're the ones in the front lines. I think, as Patience was saying, they're the ones facing it and dealing with it. We've always been very good at trusting the judgment of the grantees, and they should be in that discussion.
The one question I have about evaluations and impact is, if you collect all that data and you have all the data, what do you do with it in the end when you've got a statute that basically says if you meet these criteria, you get the money, you know, for EAF and IOLTA? I can see how it can maybe come into discretionary grant making and making, you know, an evaluative choice as to whether or not you can get discretionary fund. But for our seed funding, how could we use that impact and evaluation information to hold grantees within that accountable?
So I just want to respond to that a little bit. And this, I think, is kind of about sort of the broader discussion we're going to have today, which is, yes, we have the statutory funds that we do, but we have these other grants. And should we be looking for other grants? Should that data be a way for us to evaluate how well our organizations are doing and what they need, right? And so if we're talking about trainings or putting together best practices, that's where we can do that evaluation. And so I just wanted to say, like, I think if we had more of that insight into what the organizations are doing, where they're struggling, where they're succeeding, we could then potentially tailor the services we provide to support them, right? Even if we can't necessarily, affect funding, nor maybe should we, right? I do think there's a role for us to kind of support the organizations more broadly beyond just funding is something I'm thinking about and would sort of propose us to think about while we're doing, our discussion today. And so that I just wanted to reflect that that's one place we could use this.
Please.
I was going to say, we actually collect an incredible amount of data. I think what we haven't done a good job is making that data visible to both the community, the legal aid organizations, and to the commission. I would say even with our non-discretionary grant, we have a lot of data, and maybe that data isn't so much to accountability, but it could still be really, I think, helpful in driving kind of program level decisions. So the programs can then take that data, whether it's in a particular county or certain substantive areas of law, and that can help them, inform them in how they want to design, their services.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's
with
go to
one-
the next slide. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm going to
I
go to the
just-
next slide because we've got 4 more slides to go.
I will
And
be.
we're only on the first one, but it's okay. We're all
I
right.
will be extremely brief, and
That's
that
okay.
is to build on the evaluation conversation is just adding the perspective of make sure we link it to learning and evaluation. I think the learning part is key. Evaluation becomes very restrictive and oversight based, but the learning and also keeping in mind as we go back to this conversation later, important in terms of how does that then fuel also building a better partnership with the legislature? We've changed, and by learning, we can provide guidance so that it's not just a one way of how they're changing the programs, but we could share that.
One quick point also, just going back to what someone said about it's important that the grantees work with us also. And it would be great, I think, if those grantees could bring to the table some data from the community, from the consumers that they're serving. What do they think about the services they're getting? I think that would be really good.
There is a needs assessment process in the program, in the field programs, to determine like which populations need what, and it's far from perfect, but there is an effort on a periodic basis to do strategic planning and to determine what the needs are in the community that you're serving. So, but not to say it can't be done better, because it can.
So the first slide was, how do we feel about ourselves? This one's more of putting on the hat of outsiders, how do we think people think about us? And you see with the first one, we get a little more humble here. The legislature, we had, the most popular answer was a 3. So, still feeling a little good about ourselves there, but it looks like we think there could be some room for improvement in, how we deal with the legislature. The Newsom administration had a stronger one, but there's still, kind of mixed results in that one. Legal aid community, folks felt good, but it wasn't a perfect 5. And then community partners and stakeholders, a little bit scattered between 4 and 5, but overall, we think we're in a good place with our stakeholders.
Feedback? Please.
Do you have any idea what the criticisms were of the legislature? Was there a partisan breakdown? Republicans don't like legal services, Democrats do. I'm curious. Because you probably don't have that much connection with the actual work.
It's a good question, and I think it's something that, again, might be an outcome from this process. And I heard, as I hear you talk about community outreach and PR, which I think came from this end of the table, that's an opportunity. And we're going to talk about that in one of the breakout sessions this afternoon, because I think what I heard in the preliminary conversations is building out that relationship and, I'll say either improving or at least raising the reputation with the legislature is going to be really important, particularly because, let's just put it out there, the reputation of the state bar more broadly is
Probably not great with the legislature. I will just go with that, based on what I know and what I've heard.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, this, I actually find this surprising, because I thought the legislature was our champion when we had a real struggle with the state bar a number of years ago. The state bar changed the law and protected us. Likewise, they have been very strong on funding. Now, obviously, it's a critically important relationship. We have to be good, but I'm surprised to where that comes from, to be honest.
I think,
Well, but
I think this goes to where you all believe there's room for improvement. I don't see this as a negative, if I'm honest. I see this as a great opportunity.
Yeah, the reason I ask is, the landlords are not going to give a high rating. I mean, you have constituencies, I'm not saying whether right or wrong, but they're adversaries. And I think we could think some other industries would have the same negative feeling, so that's why I'm curious what the breakdown is.
What I would say is, I think this is just polling us.
Yeah, this is, yeah.
So this is about what, this is
Yeah.
what we think
This is what we
our
think they think.
relationship is.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
Yeah.
It's not that the legislature doesn't think we have a good reputation with it. It's, we think that there's room for improvement.
Thank you, Erica.
And so, yeah, but I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, thank you, Erica. That's helpful. Let's keep going, because this one, I think we've called out the opportunity, for sure.
Yeah, this one, and this will be kind of one to think about. So, are there any other entities with similar functions to the work that we do here at the commission? A lot of folks said yes. There were a few examples given. We saw a lot of folks put down LSC, which I learned was the Federal Legal Services Corporation. I'm learning your acronyms now, guys. The Legal Services Funders Network, California Endowment, and the California Access to Justice Commission.
Feedback. Sorry. Comments. And one thing I do want to, go ahead, I'll let you go first.
Well, just what's missing on that list is philanthropy and generally, foundations. I think that's really important, and we don't really work with them very much.
What's the opportunity? Say
The
more about that.
opportunity is to partner, and, I'll give you a good example. There is a legal services working group among many of the California foundations. Did we know that? Why aren't we part of that working group? So there are groups out there, and there's funding sources to partner up and do things and maybe leverage each other.
Tell me again, there's what with California foundations?
Well, there are various working groups, and one that I learned from my wife is there's a legal services working group focused on primarily immigration issues, but it's about increasing legal services and indigent issues. And there's similar groups among various groups of foundations, which a discussion that probably we ought to be part of.
I'll just note that it's interesting there aren't any other state government entities referenced. I mean, One California is massive in supporting legal services. There's other agencies within the state that are actually supporting these networks, so we might want to think about, I thought it's interesting that that's not referenced.
I don't know if that's accurate. I know that in LA, the DA's office and had a working relationship on real estate fraud. I think the Consumer Protection Divisions do have a relationship with the Legal Services Office. Certainly when I was in one of the units, they did. So there may be, some ones that you're not aware of.
Please.
When I answered this question, the one thing I thought of, or that for me, and why I didn't go to government-based funding, is because this is government funding quasi, but it's done through a commission. And I think the commission is different than other, like Cal OES that gives away a ton of legal funding. They don't have a commission, it's a government body making those decisions. And so to me, the State Bar Legal Service Trust Fund operates differently in that it's got a voluntary body that is making the oversight and decisions, whereas a lot of these others don't have that layer in between.
What's the opportunity there, if there is one?
I'm not sure.
I'm not
I think
either, but it feels like there's something
I think
there.
there's a tension there sometimes,
Say more about that.
Well, I think that sometimes, like when I'm thinking about processes for grants, and I come from the program side, I ran a program for 25 years, so I've had a lot of intersections with the different government bodies that create things. I think the trust fund, because of the sort of the rule regulation and the going through all of the requirements, that it slows things down for decisions, and decisions that seem pretty straightforward have to go through commission and committee and this and then out, and sort of like all of these steps, and the meetings don't happen frequently, and, budget modifications take 4 months to get approved because of a commission meet, you know what I mean? So some of our processes take longer than other government agencies that don't have to go through a commission that is bound by certain cycles. So I think there's a little bit of tension there in terms of making decisions and pivoting about processes and and grantees waiting for feedback or responses or approval.
I'm hearing and seeing an opportunity for us to expand the universe of who we look at, to learn from best practices and to partner with when we think about this question, and maybe the different way that each of us interpreted that. And maybe we've been a little bit more limited than now we're seeing we can grow and learn from others that maybe don't have the exact same structure, but there's energy and interest to do that.
Yeah, I'll share in terms of opportunities, in addition to that, that's a great point, Rosa, and I would say also, a lot of the reasons, having spent quite a bit in philanthropy, that the funders create the networks is they realize we're all funding the same organizations. And so by communicating with each other, we can better understand how is it that we coordinate our funding to best support these organizations as a major source of capital to these networks. The opportunity is to better communicate with philanthropy, who is also funding the same organizations, to talk about some of that, understand some of what they're doing. For example, we could start talking about capacity building and start overlaying things, and funders are already supporting capacity building. So now what you're doing is training the organization to run to 7 different trainings versus doing work. So I think the opportunities coordination, I think with the state agencies, there's opportunities in the same way of they may be funding the same organizations for different types of services that together provide more holistic support, and we're not telling that story because we're not talking to the other agencies. So I think those are 2 opportunities.
I made a note of that, and I'm going to come back with a question, but go ahead, Catherine.
So I think this discussion actually goes to what is the mission of the commission and what is in the commission's wheelhouse and what other organizations or philanthropy should be doing. And I think clarity about that becomes important, because I think there's strength in having a variety of groups involved in different aspects of grant making and coordination of legal aid, et cetera. And we have lots of stakeholders that do significant pieces of that now, like the Legal Aid Association of California, right? So just using this process to be clear about what do we think the commission's mission and role is, and what do we think other people's roles are within this place, I think would be very helpful.
So that's what I was about to ask, and so I'm going to ask both of you and others in the room as well. What does that coordination look like? Because I heard training, which makes sense to me. I think you want to make sure that you're not overlapping each other's work, which I've heard a little. What does that look like?
Well, I think so on non-grant making pieces, it's what does the support function to the grantees look like? And should it all be within the trust fund commission? Should they be doing the direct support that's sort of beyond the initial application? So for example, if an organization is having financial difficulties in how they do their accounting practices, should that be something that the commission is doing, or should there be a separate or related technical assistance place that grantees can go to get the support in a broader sense beyond just what the commission might be seeing, right? So I just think in most of these areas, it's sort of like look at the ecosystem. What are the tasks to be done? who's currently doing what pieces of it? What part should the bar be doing directly, the trust fund commission and its staff, right? And being clear about it. And I think that involves stakeholders, asking stakeholders about what are they doing?
Okay.
What do they see the bar's role as?
Does that cover, and then I'll come to
No,
you, sir?
I think those are great points. Taking it a little behind as a starting point, what it could look like would be to consider, taking what we do, say a report of what we did in a year, who we're funding, how is our funding structure, and saying, why don't we convene philanthropy and just share with them all this information? They will take it in, digest it. Now, that's not as directive and as intentional. I think you raised some good points about what we might think about. But at a very starting point is educate them on how we're funding, what we're funding, and who we're funding. And that could lead to a lot of great questions, follow-ups. So sometimes that's just a very good starting point.
I think that that's a two-way street, because we need to learn what they're doing. And there's a process, I don't know, amongst you all, who convene these programs, it's something like a 360, is that what they call it? Where somebody goes out and says, who's out there doing stuff? Do we actually know what that universe looks like? I think that's a critical, we're a big player, but we don't know what all the other players are doing, and that's important. It's important to know, because we may be able to identify an entity that has some real capacity building needs. We don't necessarily are the ones to fund it, but there may be somebody out there who can, and it would be good to know that.
Okay.
I did, but I'll hold mine. Why don't you go first?
Please.
Community. Okay, just two thoughts. One, the only entity I'm aware of is California Endowment. What I thought of is, does the commission have like an advisory, well, either creating an advisory board, advisory or consortium, or have a commission representative attending an advisory consortium that already exists? And that way you get the opportunity for communication and data gathering, feedback, sharing of what our current work is. So we're not reinventing the wheel. California's a big place. Distinguish between, NoCal and SoCal, right? But at least we have that kind of nexus. That may already exist, I'm not aware of it, but there's a way to kind of bridge that gap.
It's actually a good question. Actually, Efren, I was going to ask you, when you say convene philanthropy, who do you really mean? Who is that?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much generally most of philanthropy in the state, at least state funders. There's the endowment, but you've also got California Wellness Foundation. You've got the network of funders. You've got Philanthropy California, who will do all the work for you. They'll just put it out and say who would be interested, and they've got all of the foundations. There are community foundations that'll fund legal services. So it's probably finding that partner, like maybe Philanthropy California, to co-host with it, and just start by inviting folks in.
Okay. Talk to me about the Access to Justice Commission and where there are synergies or opportunities for coordination or something else.
Well, I was just going to say earlier, like when I was looking at the list of examples given,
Yeah.
what popped out to me was like, oh, the California Access to Justice Commission seemed like, and to Commissioner Blakemore's point, seemed like the one where maybe there could be the most overlap today. Because I was like, oh, the Legal Services Corporation they administer federal dollars. The Legal Services Trust Fund Commission administers mostly state, but a little bit of federal dollars, but they're different dollars. So I was like, oh, okay, they're similar looking, but very different spheres. And I was like, looking at the list, some of them are private, philanthropy, some are public, but then the Access Commission was the one where I was like, oh, I could see where an external stakeholder might get slightly confused to like Catherine's point, if there isn't some clarity, or even internal stakeholders might get slightly confused as to like, is that the best role for the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission or the California Access to Justice Commission? Like, open question, right? In any, like, if a new like pot of funding pops up, for example, that seems the mission, well, this commission has like an unwritten mission, but if it had a written mission, they'd be very similar sounding, I suspect.
Okay.
Very capable, commissioners on both bodies, right? That have like similar backgrounds, similar hearts and motivations, a lot of overlap in spirit and goal. And then they also administer some state funding. So I don't actually have an answer to like what I think one should be doing versus the other, but I could see that being where
Okay.
a grantee would be like, oh, I'm not sure which one would be the one like a new pot of funding might go through or something like that. So I could
Got
see
it.
like clarity could be helpful there.
So what's the opportunity there? And let me hear from some folks I haven't heard from, especially my friend up in the corner. He's looking away from me because he thinks that that's going to have me not call on him. It's a really great trick.
I agree with Brad because he and I used to work at MALDEF and he was at the Impact Fund. This idea of all of these grantees, potential grantees in the state, all of these potential sources of funding for a state that is as diverse geographically, but also in terms of the legal need and capacity.
Right.
But there needs to be a clearinghouse because otherwise there are pots of funding that could be better resourced and more efficiently spent, but really does not happen unless there are conversations. To say nothing of organizations like MALDEF would go to the Impact Fund every year or every once in a while to figure out what are best practices, where do we get sources of money, how do we most efficiently use that money. Those types of conversations need to happen, and I think that we are a very natural place to start that conversation.
I was just
open
going to
the
ask,
invitation.
is the opportunity for this entity to become that clearinghouse? I certainly hear the convening and other things, so is that appropriate?
Well, certainly to be a pillar of being that clearinghouse, meaning to be the inviter of a convention of conversations.
So that goes to this convening. Okay. That's clear for me. Anybody else? There you go.
I just want to add, I think Catherine referred to an ecosystem, and that's exactly what we have. And there are some places where the functions, as Chris pointed out, aren't really clearly delineated as belonging either here or there. And so I think it makes a lot of sense for there to be a conversation, not only about convening, so there's a clearinghouse and people understand, where do I find money to do X? But also among the entities that are responsible for distributing funding that comes from the state government, so that we're really clear, like who's doing what and how can we best collaborate and whose wheelhouse is where and whose strengths are where. And so that I know of, I'm new, so maybe I'm missing something huge, but as far as I'm aware, that hasn't happened yet, but I think that would be beneficial.
I loved what you said about where do I find money to do X. Basic, simple. I think you're kind of onto something there. And again, you'll have an opportunity this afternoon to talk about how to communicate some of this. I'm going to let you go, and then we got to get to the next slide because lunch is here, and you
So
can close this
I
one out.
guess I am now a bit confused about what the convening is for. We spent a lot of time talking about just the funding aspect, right? So where do I find funding? Who's responsible for what funding? I think that all has value, not disputing that. But to me, the conversation is broader because I think the bar views itself as having a broader role around sort of ensuring the quality of legal services. And there's these examples that are up there were actually examples that were in the survey, as I recall. They weren't necessarily ones that people separately created.
But they could have used comments to do that, and I don't think we saw any others.
They could have. I'm just
Yeah,
saying the
okay.
four rows that are up there
Yeah.
are the examples that were given in the survey. But there's other places, particularly on the quality pieces. So there's One Justice who does management pieces. There's, I said before, Legal Aid Association. So I guess when we say we're doing a convening or some process, it's like, are we doing all of it? Are we doing part of it? Is there more than one? So just not to focus just on the funding aspect, I think.
And again, some of this will come down to your discussions this afternoon. Some of this will
Great.
also come down to conversations with your external stakeholders around need. So we're doing the right thing here. We're teasing up some good ideas, some good thinking,
Yeah,
I
I'm just
think-
trying to have it elevated to be
Yeah.
not just about funding, but also these other components that I think
Operations was what I hear you saying. I mean,
quality of legal services, I
Okay.
think is a significant piece. Impact of legal services, other people do work in that space. I think all of those are as important to me as like the funding piece.
So I was going to say, you know, in recognition that we are a large player, big player in this space for legal services funding, you know, the staff, we get ad hoc like requests from other government agencies to give kind of technical assistance. I mean, one thing, and this is what resonated with me and us being kind of convener of that, if we could be a bit more strategic because we do have a really large platform. And if there are best practices that we can share amongst other philanthropy and other state agencies, I think we should use that as an opportunity. And this will be helpful to the legal aid community. Like one thing I'll just share for you, like Elizabeth and I were on a national panel of other IOLTA programs. And, you know, we've been doing multi-year grants for a very long time, right? To us, it's not that innovative, but when we shared that idea, it was like, oh my gosh, you guys are doing multi-year grants for IOLTA. They were blown away. So I think sometimes we take for granted some of the things we do for the benefit of the programs because we do have a really good handle of that. But I think we should utilize that platform. And I think that's why that idea of convening makes a lot of sense to me, because that's how we can make like the larger impact, right? Yes, we can cut a check and we get out dollars quickly and we do a good job, but how do we really systems change and make larger impact? And that's something I think like this commission is capable of doing.
what I would observe, and it literally parallels to our operation, is the growth. You had this exponential growth. We are not a multi-million dollar, $100 million entity, but we grew from a staff of 17 to 31. We just stepped back last year and finally say, we've got to find a way to capture this growth and put some infrastructure around it. So we did press pause. I mean, some of that is, at least what I observed, what happened here, is it just went like this, and we need to sort of do some capturing, some reporting, and some clarifying. I hear that a lot, but also some coordination. So I think there's some good opportunities, but that's what growth generally brings. So let's do this one, and then is there one more after this? And because we're only 15 minutes behind, which is not bad. There's two more? Oh, boy, okay, let's go. We may have to do a few of them through lunch, but let's see what we heard here. Let's see if there's anything here, and then we'll break.
This is, more structurally, this is kind of what we want to evaluate here. Are we built the right way? Are we doing things effectively and efficiently? Or are there better ways that we can be organized to, streamline things or be more effective? This was kind of just an overview of general thoughts, but I think when we get to the later slides, we have some themes that we got from the comments in response to this question. So overall, it looks like folks feel, if you're just looking at this data, that the way that things are built and going works and shouldn't really touch it. But when we get to some of the comments, I think there are a couple of things that we'll want to discuss just broadly on taking another look at, especially following all the growth you guys have seen. Is the commission still built and structured the right way?
Let's keep going, and then I think we'll break, and let's keep going.
This is when we get to some of the more qualitative data, some of the comments that we saw in the written responses. This isn't verbatim from anything that we saw, but it's just some of the high-level themes that we wanted to highlight and kind of show you guys for your reaction and to start sparking some of these conversations. So I'll give you guys a minute just to read some of these, take it in, and Cassandra will kind of do what she does and get you guys to talk about a couple of these things.
Most of these have shown up in our what we want from today and the comments around the potential commission impact that Dwan just made, and looks pretty consistent to me.
And it's kind of like polling. When you see consistency, it's a good thing. So not a lot of outliers. I mean, it does feel like the places that the things you've talked about made their way and bubbled their way into comments and feedback. Well, let me see what else go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to share, though, from the conversation, something I heard in the conversation that maybe is not as explicitly stated, is working more closely or hearing more or co-designing with grantees.
Your
I have to
notion of
admit,
this
I
being a
read-
two-way street. Yeah.
I heard that come up.
Yeah, I like that.
I
I'm sorry.
read that into some of these. So standardizing metrics, data, that's, as a grantee, would be yes, yes, yes.
Maybe it's more of a principle saying, as you do these, set the overarching principle that you will engage stakeholders and grantees.
Okay. This is a good point to pause, because it's time for everybody to stand up and get to stretch a little bit. I think what I'll do is just, since we've talked about football and those terrible 49ers, I'm from Baltimore, is stretch. I'm calling an audible. We'll stretch, we'll grab lunch. Just show of hands, do you know the person you're sitting next to? Yes or no? Yes? Okay, so if you know the person you're sitting next to, you can decide who, but one of you will take your things and move to another part of the table, please. So you, then you have to sit with me. I do, you do know me. But, so that's my only rule. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna grab lunch. I'm gonna give you a chance to chat with each other for about 30 minutes, and then we're gonna go back into about 15 minutes early so we can catch up a little bit, okay? But right now, lunch is out there. Wash your hands, stretch. Actually, there's hand sanitizer too. And then grab some lunch, but do not sit next to somebody you know really well, please. Thank you. Are we live again? Okay, good. All right. So really quickly, do me a favor and tell me one thing you learned about your lunch partner during lunch.
I met with Erica and we debriefed from a meeting we were at last week.
Multitasking as usual. What'd you learn about your lunch partner? One thing.
That she spent 9 months in Hilo, Hawaii. Yeah.
What'd you learn?
I learned that Michael loves Disneyland and he goes over 10 times a year with his daughter.
What'd you learn?
I learned that Amin and his wife have a perfect balance of in their respective practices.
Very cool. He's a litigator.
I am a litigator. I learned that Patience's husband does work similar to yours.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like public affairs or? Oh, this isn't really my day job. I mean, not even close. It's really funny. I was sharing that with Eric. I actually do public affairs and politics and communications and media. Yeah, I just like to do this. Yeah, we talked about that too.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I learned a little bit about Fresno and the ecosystem around the Central Valley.
Nice. Hi there, what'd you learn?
Elizabeth and I have something in common. The city, San Francisco.
Oh, I know I'm going to eat my words on that 49ers team.
Yeah, like Vanetta said, we just learned that we just knew all the same streets and all the same places and what they were before and before that and before that. And it was just really fun.
It's a fun city. I hate to admit it, but it is. Who'd you sit with, or did you go solo?
Yeah, solo.
Solo. What'd you learn about yourself?
Not to get stressed out at big meetings like this anymore.
Good. That's actually really good. What'd you learn?
I talked to Bridget. I learned that she's been here for a few years and that it's the outcome of her advocating for systems change. The system just brought her in.
Nicely done. Well done. What'd you learn?
I did a lot of talking, unfortunately. I learned I need to be a better listener. No, I really enjoyed meeting Ephraim and learning about his work, and we talked about convening as being a really important piece of it, and systems change. And then I also learned about my new friend Justice Rodriguez, that he also works with 2 other justices that were chairs of different subcommittees I've worked on before. So we talked about that.
What'd you learn?
Bridget and I talked about kind of her work for the State Bar, and particularly Jenny and all the other things, but we were talking about a podcast that she listened to recently about the psychology of how you find solutions to problems where some of the other entrenched groups may immediately feel defensive. So you have to think about how to frame it and everything else to kind of get buy-in from the get-go.
Interesting. I've heard of that. Huh. Okay, make a note of that. All right, what'd you learn?
So I'm on Team Solo, but I did learn that one of our colleagues who's currently out on parental leave recently gave birth. So I was sharing the news to colleagues and folks who knew her.
Which means someone else is a grandparent and I'm not.
I learned that Jacqueline is from North Hills. She recently got reactivated with her sorority, and she's on a bunch of boards. Yeah.
Which sorority?
That he is an Alpha, Phi Alpha, and
he looks like it.
yeah, he's going to get back involved and more active on the West Coast, because he was active on the East Coast. And I learned that he travels, and he's traveled to different parts of Africa, and he worked with the UN, and my sorority and some of my healthcare advocacy groups also work with the UN, so that was pretty cool to learn. And he likes helping people.
See what happens when you sit next to people you don't know? That's so cool. You do look like an alpha.
Hi there. We chatted, and we have a couple things in common. We both know Elizabeth from prior lives, so we have a long-standing history with Elizabeth, and we also have a connection to self-help, and because she works at self-help in Alameda, and my prior organization does a lot of family law self-help.
Well done. Thank you. What'd you learn?
Well, it's the same thing that Heidi that
Ditto.
Heidi learned as well. And that Heidi is currently a state bar employee out of the LA office, and she does really important fiscal work and is working on codifying a lot of the practices here.
Nice. Okay. Thank you.
Do you count?
Have to.
All right. I learned a lot about political polling, the difficulties of learning anything about this race until the final 2 weeks, and the unspoken issues.
That's true.
That's right.
And I learned that you're sort of in the middle, not really maybe you are a recovering R. Okay. I'm not worried about that. Yeah, okay, yeah. Got it. Okay.
I had lunch and a conversation with my colleague from another agency, Laura Brown, who's sitting in the back. We've earned tons and tons of meetings together, but I realized I had never actually had a one-to-one conversation, I think, with Laura. So we talked about what kind of work she does and how she enjoys it, and just got to know each other a bit.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, now I got to run back there and find out what you learned about Chris. So I'm coming down. Get my steps. How are you? What did you learn about Chris?
I learned that Chris really likes working with the Judicial Council. Yeah, we often interact with different organizations and agencies, and apparently our staff is one of his favorites.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay, almost there. Now I really do feel like Oprah. Without the billions. Okay.
You're getting a lot of steps in today.
I need them, trust me.
Yeah, so I'm Eric. Tony and I are utility nerds. She's a SMUD person. I'm a Southern California Edison former, retired. Anyway, we talked about serious stuff like threats to the electric grid. And I learned what keeps her up at night, cyber attacks and stuff like that.
Really light conversation.
Really? Light duty, yeah.
No, it's actually good. It's interesting. And you didn't know that about each other?
I don't know him. And then we just sat next to each other.
Okay.
So I learned that Eric just was recently retired, but he still has an affinity for the love of electricity. No, but it's really exciting. It is exciting. So if anybody wants to learn about electricity, Eric and I are here.
There you go. Who'd you sit with?
We swapped.
Okay. So what'd you learn?
Well, we were talking about our Central Valley connection, what we like about Stockton, Lodi, Galt, and yeah.
That's good. You gave me some
I know,
specifics. I'm
I
very
did.
proud of you. Okay.
So I was in this area too. So Tony and I we were both from Vietnam. So we were both from different parts of Vietnam, different fishing villages, and we were just kind of thinking when the next time she's going to take her kids. I think maybe spring break, and I was thinking maybe one of these winter breaks. Maybe not next year. It's a lot to take 2 kids all the way that far. But yeah.
Good for you. What'd you learn?
Well, I was talking with Catherine, and as she mentioned, we were debriefing, and I actually learned a lot about how court reporters work in California, which I didn't know before, and Catherine very helpfully educated me on some stuff I didn't know before now.
How does Catherine know how court reporters work?
I think because you guys are doing a policy, some research into that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Thank you. Would you? I didn't get you because you were out of the room. What? Yes. What did you learn about your lunch partner?
Well, we were comparing notes about our different courts that we both worked on, because he was LA and I'm up in Alameda. And one thing that's unique is both counties have district attorney challenge elections coming up right now. And I was sharing that I blessedly am not in criminal. I do civil stuff. And one of the great things about being a judge is that you don't have to respond to political questions.
So then I won't ask. Okay, thank you. Yeah, oh, I know her. I know her. Huh, okay. All right, back to work. Thank you for that. So let's go to the next slide, sir. And, yep, I'm gonna let you take this side, sit down and
So as I mentioned on one of the previous slides that had kind of the graphical data, this is more of the qualitative stuff we got back in response to some of those structural questions on, ideas on how the commission can potentially be more efficient, effective, and in its execution and kind of how it's structured. So again, I'll let you guys read through some of the high level. We add a little more context to these ones just to spell it out a bit, but any immediate reactions to what you're seeing?
Well, this goes back to the point that I was thinking about a while ago. As we get bigger, the tendency is to get more bureaucratic and more structure, and creating more subcommittees doesn't actually mean you're getting more work done. It sometimes complicates it, and that's a concern that I would always have. But I think that's a real challenge for us.
Potential.
I just want to say that I keep on hearing like things like, you know, as we get bigger, we're getting bigger, we're growing. I feel like going back to what Catherine said earlier about, you know, finding our identity and what we want to do when we grow up, right? Identifying what that is first, and then sticking to that will help kind of ground this commission in kind of moving forward to achieve whatever goals it is we put in place. Because growing bigger doesn't mean that we do everything, right? Growing bigger, it's great to grow bigger, but we need to define what it is our purpose is and what it is we want to do as an organization moving forward first.
I think just one other thing I was thinking through at lunch is we have grown, there's no doubt, the commission has grown a lot, and a lot of that has to do with significant increase in trust fund revenue, which is what pays a lot of our administrative costs. And I guess there's always just this caution also in the back of my mind of don't build a program that takes on so much that if we retract to 5 million or 10 million as opposed to 100 million, then we can't sustain anything, and we're back here trying to figure out what we have to shed. So to me, there's this balance, to your point, of what is our core mission, what do we want to do, and how do we do that well, and knowing that I don't personally think the 100 million is going to continue, although the Feds didn't lower interest rates again, so, you know, maybe we have another good year.
Something I have observed as a State Bar staff member is I feel very, very confident that the commission's organizational structure is conducive and protective of its efficient, effective, and timely execution of its administration of grants, without a doubt. And I have observed, though, that during commission meetings, like, it seems like every single topic is very important. I always find myself saying, like, the commission does need to be discussing this. This is critical. And they always seem to, like, run out of time. Like, there's not enough hours in the day to cover all the things that feel super important. So I'm unsure that, like, delegating more to committees is necessarily the solution, but what I wonder if, like, are there more things that could be delegated so that the commission meeting, they can get through everything and feel like they didn't run out of time? Because it's not as simple as, like, oh, they didn't need to talk about that. Everything feels really important. But that being said, like, all the critical work is definitely getting done. There's, like, no doubt about that.
Does this go to how we set our agenda? Length of meeting? Should some things be reports or informational instead of up for discussion? Or is this something bigger than that about roles? And you can start for sure, please.
Yeah, I was going to say, connecting it back to what Tony and Catherine said, I think this goes to, like, our priorities, right? Like, what really is the mission? What are we trying to achieve? What's the impact that we want to have? And then we have to deal with the structure. Is that conducive to why and what we're doing?
Okay. I mean, I think that's true. Yeah. Please, Eric.
Not a high level point, but just commission meetings, I'll just say, seem to me to be largely a lot of rubber stamping of what committees do. There's not, to me anyway, that's just kind of the feeling I've had, and there's just not enough time for commission discussion of policy kinds of issues.
let me try it this way. Boards should be strategically focused and provide strategic guidance. So is it too tactical? Are the meetings too tactical?
Maybe, yeah.
And again, I think you're absolutely right, Juan.
Or I don't even know if
Once
it's
we-
tactical. I mean, it's just like not much of anything. I mean, the rubber stamping of the committee is just, it's just, you know, the committee gives a report that nobody listens to and then votes yes. And that's about a good percentage of commission meeting time to me. I mean, sorry if that, I'm looking at you.
This is why we're here, right?
Yeah.
To have these conversations.
I do think we've begun to use a consent agenda, and that's a really good idea, and that may be the place to put this, to put that kind of thing.
Okay.
Judge Klein?
Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the concerns I have is, are we adaptable to certain unique areas that are, come up on our agendas? Care courts was an example. Now, fortunately, I happen to have worked in a very similar field, but it struck me that, you know, do we have the flexibility on other areas of some specialized knowledge involved legal services work to bring in or somehow develop or get the input of people who have worked in it who may not have been appointed because there's a different basis for it. I think care courts is a good example. A very specialized, unique area.
You know? On this one? You may. You can do whatever you want. You're our chair.
No. I think, and I'm going to make a plug for the Rules Committee because I've been on it for a couple of years. And so I think one of the things, the goal of, I felt like when I came onto the commission about 5 years ago, there just wasn't a lot of like guidance about some of the things that we do as far as who reviews what are the standards by which we make those reviews, and like how do we make those determinations. And and whether we ought to be the ones making that determination. And so one of, I think, the goals that I have as far as, you know, doing rules and kind of growing up as like an organization in some ways is to put some of those structures in place and sort of improve the infrastructure so that it's very clear what are the determinations staff makes. If things come up to the commission, what are the things we should be looking at, guidance on our decision making, so it's a little less squishy. Because I do think sometimes we end up having sort of really freewheeling conversations, which can be very helpful, but they're often about, you know, not about strategic topics, right? And I think if we had some, you know, list of factors or something that we could sort of focus our attention on, that might help. So I think sort of just infrastructure.
I shared that this is not my day job, but I did this last week for another organization. And I heard this exact same feedback. So I'm going to push you on that.
It's like law school.
Yeah. How? Like, what is the immediate next step to doing some of what I've just heard you all discuss? And it's really important. Others are welcome to have ideas, to share ideas, but I want to hear from you in particular.
Yeah, I mean, so again, I'll make a plug for the Rules Committee. I mean, we are a government agency, so we, you know, sort of operate through regulatory guidance and regulatory and just regulations. I think, ironically, that is a very bureaucratic process, for better or worse. But I do think it has been a really useful way for us to examine as a group, you know, what it is that how we are doing things and sort of increasing transparency. But I think as part of this strategic process, I think the rules have been sort of, we've been developing them in the context of how we currently operate. And I think, sort of touching back to like what Tuan said, what Tony said, what Catherine has said, like, if we have a bigger picture idea of what our mission is and what our purpose is, we can then better tailor the rules that we live by, so that we are being more effective and following that particular mission or goal, you know? So if we want to be on the more strategic side, maybe the rules need to shift a little bit.
Should we task the Rules Committee with updating the rules?
Versus
I don't
someone
know.
else?
And that's what I'm asking. I mean, that's where we got to in the conversation with the group, with this board, and it was a nonprofit board. But somebody's got to do it.
Yes, someone does have to do it. I mean, I think the Rules Committee has been very productive. But I think, like I said, I think that's what my goal is, that the whole commission can kind of come up with the mission part of it.
Absolutely.
And then as far as, I mean, it's a good question, right? And Duan knows the history of the Rules Committee. At one point, the staff was the ones who did it. And then they got sort of, the Rules Committee would overrule them a lot, right? And so it became, I think, a little bit more useful to have, you know, commission members on the working groups to help develop the rules, because then there was more buy-in, right? And it was easier to persuade. And so, so that, I think one of the questions I think I have, and I see this as someone who's like on a lot of these working groups, is like, you know, I think a lot of commissioners like want to be in the weeds, and like maybe we do or do not need to be in the weeds, and like when do we defer, when do we not? And you know, if we are just rubber stamping, should we be doing that? Should there be more oversight, less? I don't know, but excuse me. But I just wanted to, you know, raise the kind of infrastructure point. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question. I mean, I studied, you know, kind of SEC before, and I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot. But for them, like, their staff does a lot of the work and then brings it up to the 5 commission members, and then they vote on it. And I'm sure there's a dialogue and it's iterative. But yeah, there's something that we need to think about there.
Let me just ask someone else for any best practices that anyone's aware of. Sorry. Go ahead, Catherine, because I think everybody's been right, obviously. It is about defining the mission, defining the work, and then building a structure and a staff that makes that work. But somebody's got to own the making of the rules.
So I think where I have landed on this, and I think we're in kind of the messy part of the rules at the moment, but setting the rules, right, should be a commission big picture. That's what they should do. I think clarity about who has the authority to make sure the rules are complied with, that may, like, how much has to go to the full commission, for example. But the actual rule setting, once that process is done and there's a set of rules, I think that's the point then. What's delegated to staff, a lot of the rules have already started to incorporate, I think, good delegation with much clearer standards than existed. I don't know, I think I've been on the commission 3 years, some amount of time like that. So I feel like we have to kind of get through the rules. I think the process works, but we should keep an eye towards whose job is it once there is a rule to kind of be the enforcer of the rule.
I don't disagree, but I also hear that we want to augment or strengthen or bulk up things a little bit, and I'm just asking who's going to be in charge of doing that. Go ahead.
So, sitting on the Rules Committee, as I do, I don't wish that on anybody. You know, it has.
I was going to say, So that's why nobody
So,
wants to
so
take
it
it.
has to be done, no question, absolutely, totally, 1000% agree with that. Question, to go to Eric's point, is how much does the commission as a whole need to be involved? And this also seems to me to be a potential function of a consent agenda. You get the report, you get the staff is wonderful about getting everything out ahead of time. So you see the slide deck, you see the report. If you have a beef, ask to remove it from the consent agenda. And then what should happen is you get to go and join in the conversation with the rules committee and make your concerns heard, and then we'll chew through it and we'll come back with another report. But I really strongly agree that slogging through rules as a commission, that is like as far from strategic as you can possibly get. And like, yes, it has to be done, and yes, we have to bless them, but like the less the whole commission needs to do that, the better.
Which means the rules committee should really.
Yes, ask me how I really feel.
Here and then here.
So my comment is more kind of stepping back to kind of the question of roles and commissioner versus staff kind of functions, because I think there's two things that we should probably be mindful of as we're talking about missions, because I think missions are important. We need to think about what our mission is, but I think there are two layers of this that we have to keep in mind. There's the legal services, I'm going to call it the Legal Services Trust Fund program, and the Legal Services Trust Fund commission. And what I mean by making that distinction is that there is the commission, and then there's staff and the commission, and the kind of like the function of the whole piece. And I think what would be useful for us is to have a mission for our commission in particular that kind of obviously dovetails with what everybody and all of us are doing, but really kind of clarifies even more, because the rules committee and kind of that process is helping clarify the program and how we're approaching the function of grant making and you know, policy issues and stuff like that. But I really do think that we should drill down even further as much as we can today and through this process on, like, as commissioners, what function do we want to have? Because you know, we have committees and working groups within committees and the staff that are doing a lot of the work. So like there is a machine running, but I do think there is a space for us to have kind of a higher level function, strategic, policy oriented, and outward facing community outreach sort of vision and role that I think we haven't really had since I've been on the commission now for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years now, and we really haven't had that for a variety of reasons. I think that the commission's been kind of going through a process of identity, capturing what our identity is and what our function is. And I do think, Catherine, you're right, like there are going to be lean years that we have to be mindful of going forward, but I don't think this is necessarily tied to, we have the luxury, I think, now of, you know, maybe a little bit more attention over the past few years, and a little bit more money has given us that kind of push. But like we've also kind of worked through some stuff that we've dealt with over the past few years, and now have that luxury that's not tied to money, that gives us the opportunity to talk about this at a higher level. So I just want to throw that out there, because I do think there's a real opportunity for us to, you know, make a leap at a high level.
So
Yeah,
I'm
and
gonna
no
put you on the
disagreement
spot,
about-
on the spot
about
too
that.
then.
I don't disagree with that point.
Who gets to do it?
Who gets to do which
How?
piece?
How's it get done? Clarify functions, roles for the commission. How's that gonna get done?
I think
What
I
group
think
of
we got to
people's gonna
start
do
with,
it?
yeah, I think this group's got to start with what is our, having a deeper discussion about what is our role, what is
Oh, no,
our
we'll do that.
mission as a.
We'll do that, but who puts the infrastructure plan, so to speak, on paper? The rules committee?
I don't know. I think
Is there
that's.
a right answer?
No, but the right answer is somebody's gotta own it. I always, I
Yeah.
see organizations get stuck on this. You can call an outside consultant, you can look for best practices, you can, you know, go to board source, but somebody's gotta own it. And, really, it is certainly a lot about keeping that consent agenda, but it is more about what you shared, and that is, we've grown, we've changed, we need infrastructures to support it. That's work.
Yeah.
And all I'm trying to find out is who you want to do that work? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't think it's the rules committee. I mean, I think we were talking about like how the structure is gonna be and how are we gonna divide roles. And I would make two suggestions. Either it's a subcommittee that comes out of the strategic planning process, or it's through the executive committee. But maybe it's the subcommittee because then I think you get more of a diverse perspective amongst the commission. And then from there, we can decide, do we want to hire an ICONS consultant, model up a few things, bring it back to the commission, talks about pros and cons, and then have the commission engaged. But I don't think it's the rules committee. That committee has a lot of work. And to layer that on top of that, I don't think that's,
You're getting close to my answer.
Okay.
Well done. So it's a subcommittee or a working group or something like that. Go ahead.
So this is, my comment was more one of your earlier questions
Okay.
about what that looks like, and looking at the, we have the rules, and then thinking about the meeting itself and the decision-making and what is elevated and kind of what that ends up looking like between staff or commission or committees. But then thinking about and reflecting on this specifically for the grants, some of the, I don't know if pain points is the right way to describe it, in terms of information, maybe like a disconnect where we're seeing, the reality is we have a group of grantees that's pretty set, that receives at least 2 of our grants, IOLTA EAF, and then applies and receives additional discretionary funding. And when there are questions around data or challenges regarding hiring, recruitment, retention, anything else, compliance concerns, they go back to specific committees depending on a specific grant, and there isn't necessarily a through line. And sometimes there's, I think that takes maybe a little bit more time on the grantee end to respond to questions for a specific committee as opposed to the commission. Takes more time on the commissioner side, especially if you're in one committee but not the other and you're asking each other questions. And on the staff end, to try to reconcile that and feed kind of the flow of information. So I think there's a little bit there about the structure itself, especially when earlier conversation around IOLTA and EAF, but maybe there's more flexibility around how we look at discretionary, maybe as a whole, and whether, how many committees, how deep, or if we look at how to break that up maybe a little differently than we are now.
Okay. I'm gonna, oh, please.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm coming down there.
Thank you. It's a team
fine.
effort getting attention to this side of the room.
Just yell out, it's fine.
I know, I want to be rude, and as it is, I'll usually project. So I wanted to just make sure we got a couple perspectives in. One is, I'm agnostic and I think supportive of the wisdom in the group, but I think one would be, as we talk about this, for me, what I'm not hearing answered is, okay, who's going to give the clarity on what are the decisions to be made by this body? And then really the question we're talking about is who has what power, right? And if you take it from that degree to say, including the committees, not assuming that the committee necessarily, there are some powers or decisions committees shouldn't make that the body wants to make in general. So I think that revisiting, getting that said, to me, the best practice is always knowing who's got what power and what are the decisions that need to be made. And then you negotiate and then you write rules around that. For me, and then the others, as we talk about rules, I can't help but go back to the early part where we started. I took some notes in Erica's comments of there was legislation that dramatically changed the composition of this committee for some intended purposes. And from an equity perspective, I would say, how have the rules considered, from my standpoint, Jonathan's, other new folks, sort of kind of how we fit into those rules, how we understand those versus how much of that is being driven by folks who have historically been in this field, do this work, want it this way, versus an equity perspective, some of our new voices kind of letting us understand and bring in some of our perspectives. So I just want to raise that equity issue as we run into rules and say, we got it, it's already deep. I mean, I may not be comfortable in trying to just understand how we fit in.
Well, I like what you just said, and I tie it back to Dawan's comments. I think it is likely to be either a subcommittee of this group that represents and reflects the right perspectives with it through an equity lens, for sure. It can be a working group, a subcommittee, I don't care what you call it, but I really want you to say, this is how it's going to get done. This is one of those moments where we're not going to let this one float. So show of hands, is it a working group? The what is what Erica defined, I thought, far more articulately than I will at the moment. But given the growth, given this focus hopefully on mission, that we will take that, couple that conversation into what does our structure need to look like, and more to the point, this is a tactic, but therefore, how do we use commission meetings to drive our mission forward? That's essentially it. And what I think I hear is that we probably don't want the Rules Committee to do that because they have enough to do. So that's why nobody volunteered from the Rules Committee. I get it now. But I also think it's either a working group, a subcommittee, call it what you want. And I will tack on the last comments we heard, that we do that, making sure that we've got an equity, it's driven by, through an equity lens. Is that good?
Yeah.
Can I
You may.
Yeah, I guess hearing what you just said, my thought would be that maybe the way we should do it is that we should devote some time at a commission meeting to discussing it.
Sort of a committee of the whole.
And then I would have the executive committee do it.
I think the executive committee now is two
Oh.
people.
Well, all right. Sorry about that. All right, maybe
Take
a
that-
working
take
group.
that
then.
back? Okay.
So
Okay,
I
thank you.
I just want to speak to one piece of that, because apparently under Bagley-Keene, different words have different meanings,
That's
which
why we
I
need
have
them
a
too.
hard time of wrapping my head around. But a working group can be like 3 people, maybe 4 people, and then they don't comply with Bagley-Keene. And a subcommittee is actually a committee, right, which does comply with Bagley-Keene. And I fully support what Efrain said, which is you have to have the diversity of perspectives to develop what this infrastructure is and what this looks like, which to me at least means it has to be a committee to get that kind of diversity, not go to as much as I love our chair and vice chair, 2 people is not enough, and I don't actually think 4 people is enough. So it's sorting through what would that committee look like, which might be worthy of a commission discussion at some point, or some parameters about what is being discussed. So
Okay.
that's my 2 cents, now that I understand the what.
And I
Wh- wh-
also,
Go ahead. You get the
similarly,
closing word on this because we have to move now.
oh, sorry.
That's
All
okay.
I was gonna say is like, I also think to all of those points, if it's Bagley-Keene, it's done in open and public, right? Which I think is very valuable, given that we want to have stakeholder feedback, we want to have, the commission have feedback. So I'm in favor of something where we're doing things openly.
I have called it, and it's in quotes, a committee on infrastructure. You may rename it anything you want, making sure we follow the rules and making sure we've got diverse perspectives in the room. But I did not want to leave without you saying we're going to do this and let it float out there, because it's the one thing that happens a lot of times in these kinds of discussions. So let's go to the next slide, because we're starting to get a little bit bunched on time. But some of this will also probably tie to that work when you think about it, just on the piece on staff and commissioner roles. But I'll let you take a quick look. Look at all of them. Just take a quick look and give me some feedback, if any. You can't see? Okay, what we heard, are commission and staff member roles clearly defined?
I think that goes back to the conversation we've been having. right?
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah, I
sorry.
totally agree.
I think that goes back to the conversation we've been having, and that, the need for this committee on infrastructure.
Yeah.
So I think
I think this
To
one,
have it
I think
covered.
we will come close to checking the box. So I'm happy about that, so, because we can go to the next slide. Because I'm getting worried now. Not worried, we're okay. So, again, this is what we heard. This whole piece on maximizing impact came up a lot. And I'm going to leave the structural tensions and identity crisis out, because we did just spend a lot of time there both this morning and just now. But let's talk about a little bit around impact and expanding access. Mission has an opportunity to position itself as an advocate for greater access to legal services among indigent Californians by taking a proactive approach internally and through engagement with policymakers. And this sounds, I could be wrong, but it feels like this is a little bit of a push to sort of expand and change our scope a little bit. But tell me how you're reading it. You're smiling, so tell me how you're
I'm
reading
not
it.
smiling.
You're frowning?
No, it's old habit.
Okay. It's old judge habit? That's what you do?
No, well, it gets me in trouble sometimes because people are just laughing at us.
Tell me what this means. Go ahead.
I didn't take the survey, but to me, what this means.
Wait, what? Oh, kidding.
But to me, what this means is that there is a greater community need for our services, that we're not probably necessarily reaching out to everybody. There are some grants that, you know, if they follow certain guidelines, then they do receive them. Maybe they're the same people that receive them all the time. I don't know how diverse our pool of recipients are. And there are new organizations that are established all the time. So are we reaching out to those various members or other organizations or not? And I think this is a part of the work that we should be doing, is to, as we are looking at these things, people who don't know that we exist can't reach out for the services, right? So part of that is promoting what it is we're doing so that they can come and avail of the services that we provide.
Let me ask staff to say a little bit about that. What does this say to you?
Well, I think this is like what Eric was saying, the strategy and the policymaking aspect of this commission. I would say this is what Crystal said earlier. Is there a way to encourage innovation, programs trying something new, and for the end goal of expanding legal services for the indigent, which connects to what the IOSA statute was created for. So I think it's that work that I think we are doing in a ad hoc way. I would say the staff is doing it a little bit more. And I have to be honest with you, this meeting here, I've never heard the commission at this level at a commission meeting. And this is the type of discussion that I think would have a larger impact for our grant making. So I think this strategic planning today is like the manifestation of like that idea.
Okay. What's the opportunity specifically?
Well, I don't know.
What's the outcome with a big idea?
I don't know specifically, but I mean, I think like an end goal could be, like I said, to expand more legal services. The end goal, I think, that we all share is that we want more legal services to reach more underserved communities in California.
Okay.
Our grant making is one function, I think, and again, this is being done indirectly, directly. You know, an example is like our homelessness prevention. We helped draft that legislation. We helped write in there the rural preference because we knew that there was a need in rural, remote Californians. So we are already doing that, but I don't know we're doing that at every commission meeting, at everything that, it doesn't seem like it's infused in like the way the commission is functioning.
Please.
I have a question on that because I don't know the purview of the committee. I'll get calls from who will handle, you know, this issue. Social Security for my neighbor, you know, that kind of stuff. And I unfortunately, I have some people I can call, but most people don't have access to that. Is that part of this commission's purview, is to publicize, you know, where you go if you're having a problem with Social Security or have a problem, well, whatever it may be, and you have to figure out which legal services agency does that?
I think for that specific question, no. And I think this gets back to maybe what something that Catherine's saying. There are other entities that are in this ecosystem, right? And maybe it's a matter like I think like for myself personally, I'm very familiar, and I know there are other commissioners on that are familiar with that, but I don't know as a commission as a whole if you're all familiar with that. And then really mapping out an ecosystem, and then like, I don't know if that's determinate completely of what the commission's kind of identity is, but I think that's relevant, right?
Is that really a gap, or we just don't necessarily know that it's in one place? Or is that an opportunity to become, I mean, we used the word clearinghouse earlier today.
I mean, the justice gap is very large in California, as you all know. So I think there is more than enough, the space, I think, is large enough that if several entities or a few entities did it, but I still think with that said, the role clarity would help anybody, right? We don't want to step on anybody's toes, and I think we don't want anybody to step on ours. So that's also very important to kind of coexist and collaborate in a meaningful, positive way.
This comes down to leadership. We are in a role, partly because of our growth and our placement, where we should be a leader in increasing access. And we've talked about some strategies today, finding some other partners out there, bringing more people in there. I mean, our goal is not to tell somebody where to go to apply for Social Security. Our goal is to make sure there are more resources going into legal services in general and finding out ways to leverage it. And so that's where I see them maximizing it. And it's us stepping up. We've done a lot of great work in more of an ad hoc way, I think.
What's the action item? Like, what has to be different in order to get to the goal?
Well, and this goes back to our role. If our role is that first thing, which is maximizing impact and increasing legal services, then there's a number of pretty strategies we've talked about to doing it. And it means us saying, okay, we're going to convene these things. We're going to reach out to other organizations. We're going to survey the ecosystem with people's help to figure out where the needs are and where we can push it. It also goes all the way back to our evaluation process, which is what can we tell the legislature about what, here's how effective we've been.
Sure. Totally agree there. I saw some more. There you go, please.
The other thing that can happen once we have confidence in the evaluation processes is that is a ton of information for legislators potentially in terms of their own docket setting. I mean, what we become a valued and trusted source of information about what the poorest people in California absolutely have to have, that legal aid has not been able to solve, or whatever the obstacles have been and the difficulties. So we're telling them both, yes, we saved this many 100,000 people from eviction, and rents, the rising, we see the through line between whom we're serving and rising rents, and what are the, like, what happens as a result, not setting aside entirely the qualitative data that we'll have access to, that will give power to the quantitative information. So I see us really positioning ourselves as a, this is what Californians need. The people who are nobody's constituents. And my clients were never anybody's constituents. They were not donating money. They were, but the people who are otherwise don't have a voice, we can at least send a snapshot of what they're contending with if we can't give them the microphone.
Okay, I'll let you have the last, well, I'll let you, and then you have the last word.
Okay, I'll just quickly say, there is a piece where we have information that we could inform, educate, and advocate with that we're not doing. And a question for me to be resolved maybe in this infrastructure discussion is, how does that work as part of the state bar? Like, can the commission separately be advocating for something outside of what might be a bar's priority? And how does that relationship work? Which honestly is, at least for me, a little bit of an elephant in the room still.
So I have a very specific question which ties into that. In this room, do we know if someone is denied regional center services, where they can go at legal aid agency?
Disability Rights California.
See? All right, good. I don't know how widespread that's known. I know public counsel used to do that. Medi-Cal denial. Pardon? See, I'm just saying, these issues come up, someone doesn't get an IEP for their child.
Are you suggesting that's a role we should play?
Well, that's why I'm asking the question, because you're talking about communicating needs in the community for services, so I'm getting right down to specifics.
All right, can I come back?
Is there a role we could, that should be performed? I don't know the answer, I mean, I haven't really dealt with that.
Let me come back to that, put a pin in it, I may even put it on the parking lot, but you've been patient, and then I'm gonna come back.
Well, we do fund the LA or lawhelp.org that LAC administers, which does have all of the nonprofit legal service providers on a website that you can go to and type in your legal issue and your region, and it will give you a list of providers who, at least on paper, will do all of those things, and that is funded through EAF. My problem is when you get that list of funders and you're a client and you go to them, it's like, oh, sorry, you don't fit into this little narrow slot of how you get on our front door. So my theory was, or thought was a lot like Catherine's, is there's an advocacy role that's missing in, as a, you know, as the largest funder of legal services in California. And how can we advocate for what our grantees are telling us are the unmet needs in their community? And is there a way to either advocate for the legislature to provide more funding for those things, or philanthropy, or partnerships with other organizations, and be talking with our grantees and knowing where those holes and gaps are in their services? So when you do go to the lawhelp.org and you get the 12 providers and you go and you call every single one of them and they're like, sorry, can't help you, try, you know, because they go in this circle, you know, trying to get in the front door. Because if the Justice Gap Study tells you, you know, there's far more demand than there is providers. And so they can't meet the need. And so I think I do want to explore the advocacy role. It is tricky as a state bar regulatory agency, you know, sort of how's that, and how can we explore what is possible under that umbrella? Because
for that second word, because I put define, but I wasn't sure what the second one was, but explore. I got it. Okay, so do you feel like you got your question somewhat answered? At least take a look at the website, or should I put it on
Yes.
the parking lot?
Well, we have one person in the room maybe who knows that.
Okay, all right.
Now, so it's there, but the question is, how much should we be communicating that? Is that really the province of the committee? You know, one thing we really haven't focused in terms of providers is some of the churches have, you know, once a month, they bring in experts to, I know First Amy Church has, you know, criminal or probate, or lawyers volunteer time. So there's a lot of things out there.
It's a fair question to ask, but is that the commission's role?
Yeah.
We should have a discussion, or have a discussion that our role is at
Yeah, which is my question.
I got you. Go ahead, please. And then we're gonna go to the next one. This is good.
Yeah, I'm just kind of mulling this over, and I think what captured my attention was, it's kind of like what's the commission's priorities in terms of mission and vision?
Yep.
Working regard the most leverage to affect change. And what I thought about was, on a micro level, we have a need for services on the ground. How do clients access that? Through a clearinghouse or other resources, other services, collaboration, and so forth, right? And then the next step becomes, someone said providers. If our goal is justice reform, we need providers who are the attorneys. And so our idea of, you know, the scholarships to the law students, they can have access to the public sector, which promotes more involvement potentially. That's a middle tier. And then ultimately, if you have service delivery on the ground, if you have that pathway for legal training, you build more providers, and that goal of justice is expanded. So I guess what I'm saying is, with limited experience that I have, is maybe the commission's role, the advocacy is one between the legislation to bring forth those concerns that are a major focus. One, we can be the facilitator of that, or to align with those legislators who have who've identified a need, let's say mental health, care court, for example, right? And then they come to the commission and say, can you be a part of that change?
That's also advocacy, that's true. That's a good form of backup.
So not an either or,
Yeah, it's both.
but, and given time, time constraints and commitments as well, so.
Okay, all right. This was a good discussion. It was helpful to me. I think what I pulled out of it, in particular is, and I thank you for getting the word for me because I couldn't get it, but defining and exploring this advocacy role, which I also heard some further definition around. So this is good. Okay, one more slide and then we have work to do. And we don't have a lot of time. So, okay, I can't even see it myself now. Okay, this was one, just final thoughts or comments. And someone raised this earlier, just clear standards for commissioner engagement, particularly regarding staff time utilization, potential conflicts of interest, can enhance accountability and transparency. Publicizing funding impact and importance, that also came up earlier. Potential for improvement in publicizing the significant impact of the commission's funding and services. This goes back to data, et cetera, and ensuring that the essential role it plays in addressing critical socioeconomic needs is well communicated to the public, and there's that word, to policymakers. So you all are definitely consistent, I will say that. Any final thoughts or comments on this piece? I mean, a lot of this has been reflected in what we've talked about already, which I'm happy to see. See, when you get to this part, the hard work's over now, sort of. Go ahead.
I do think there is a real opportunity for doing a better job with PR, both to, in so many different ways, banks understanding that how they set their interest rates for IOLTA accounts and the impact of that work, to law firms about making choices about where they put their IOLTA dollars in terms of, what the banks are paying, as well as to the grantees themselves on, what the role of the commission is, because some understand it, most, I would argue, don't, and what's happening at the commission level and communicating that with the grantees and getting their things. So I think a lot of what we do is in the shadows, and if you're in the know, you know, but if you're not in the know, you have no idea. And so I do think, sort of changing the public face of the commission and doing a better job on communications and PR would really benefit.
Say more. What do you mean change the public face? What's that mean?
Well, I think that there is a tension, at least when I was on the grantee side, it was sort of like the commission functions over here and doesn't have any idea what they're doing at the ground level, and sort of they make these decisions that are hard to understand, and then sort of what the commission is doing and why it exists and how, sort of, we just had all of these deadline due dates on the 31st, and I cannot tell you how many times I had to explain, you will submit this, then it has to go through this process, then it will go to the commission. They're like, well, we won't know next week. I'm like, no, you won't, and so, these are our seasoned grantees that don't even understand sort of the regular administrative processes. So I think that there is some disconnect.
Some of this is some of what you said is about the work itself. Is the process, and just making sure that people who stand to benefit from the process understand how it works. But some of it is also about public relations, raising the profile of the work itself.
Yeah,
what does that look like?
To me, I feel like we should be having, I wish we had our own sort of website with, it was like not the State Bar, sort of formulaic website that kind of like you have to click through 17 things before you get it, that can kind of like, hey, here's what we're doing with our IOLTA dollars. Here's a story that this is the impact, and here, was really telling the positive side of, hey, did you know we helped, X number of people get housing, or, here's a success story, so that there's really no one out there saying, look what we did right, and look at look at the positive side. There's a lot out there about the tensions and what we did wrong and, all of that. But there's no one out there saying, hey, this is what we did right, and aren't we awesome? And, hey, let's really bring that to the public in a way that they actually get it and see it.
Just say there was an infrastructure question that shouldn't be lost, which is why should Heidi have to say to a grantee, there's 8 other steps, and should that be streamlined to say, I don't know, does the commission need to say you're I think these are on maybe like rollover or something like that. Does the commission actually have anything to add as to whether a fund should be allowed to roll over if there's a clear rule? And could we get it down to, yes, she'll know in 2 weeks because 2 other people have to look at it as opposed to 8 and then the committee and then the commission? The point is back to the commission's role, I think, and what does the commission need to do and what can get delegated to some other place?
That's fair. And that, we've got that here a few places. Okay, I'm good with that. So, thank you for that discussion. I got from that certainly some concerns, and something on the parking lot, but also a couple of other good issues and a couple of big ideas. So I think this was a good part of the discussion. So now we're going to break into breakout groups because you can't have a strategy session without a good old breakout group. Problem is that we said we were going to do it for an hour and we're not. So I'm going to say 25 minutes because I know you'll take 30. And we're going to tell you how we're breaking you out. Each of you, here are the breakout discussions. Let me read those if you can't see them. And some of this will just show you that we were anticipating some of what we talk about today, but internal communication, external communication to literally the discussion we just had, organization structure and roles, grant-making procedures, DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then maximizing the commission's impact. So we're going to break you out. I'm going to let you take the lead on I'll tell you who's going where. I'll put the numbers up, but you tell them who they are. And I got 2 things I need to do.
So I think we forgot to mention at the top beginning of this that part of the planning process for the strategic planning, there was a subcommittee that was comprised of Erica, Patience, Vanetta, Tammy, who's not here, Ephraim, and that's it. So we have 6 subgroups. So and 5 subcommittee members. So each of those will have 1 subcommittee member plus a staff support. And there's 1 group that has 2 staff because we're short 1 subcommittee member. So I think those are the groups. And then, and Tammy's not here. So 2 of them actually would just have a staff support. And then I think we had decided, Cassandra, remind me, we're going to call off for the rest of the commissioners and then it'll be random. Okay. So okay, so how about the staff and the subcommittee member that's in those groups go to that space now, and then we will then call out numbers after that.
Oh, you're going to tell us the number.
The number will be linked to the subcommittee. I mean the breakout session. I'm sorry.
So internal community. Oh, sorry, I was going to project. Internal communication is 1. So if you read it from left to right, top to bottom. So internal communication is 1. External communications is 2. Organizational structure and roles is 3. Grant making procedures 4. Diversity, equity, and inclusion 5. And maximizing the commission's impact 6. And we can write that on top as well.
So for now, just the subcommittee, the staff move over to the group, and then we'll just call out for number, and then you'll go to your group.
So we're being assigned. So Vietnam.